is that what the Israelis have been doing in light of these heightened tensions in the region is try to eliminate what it sees are potential threats in the event of any conflict between the United States and Israel and Iran. So stepped up attacks, focusing on what Israel believes is strategic infrastructure. The question that has been repeatedly asked in Lebanon in recent days is, what will Hezbollah do in the event of a U.S. or Israeli military strike on Iran? Hezbollah, of course, being a strategic ally of Iran. But another question that also has been asked in recent days is not what just Hezbollah will do, but whether Israel will carry out preemptive attacks against Hezbollah to eliminate what it sees a potential threat coming from this front.
All right, Zaina Hodder there live for us in Beirut. Zaina, stay with us for the moment, won't you? We're just going to cross to Alan Fisher live in Washington, D.C., our chief U.S. correspondent, Alan Fisher. Alan, this has come, I suppose, as a bit of a surprise, because most people viewed the U.S. military build-up in the region, that the attack would have been some kind of strike from U.S. military assets in the region, but this has come from Israel. Presumably, Alan, Washington would have given the green light for this.
Well, certainly the indications are there that they knew something was coming, given that a number of embassies announced the evacuation of non-essential personnel. And we saw that with Mike Huckabee, the ambassador in Israel, making that announcement just more than 36 hours ago to his staff there. But you're right, people were expecting that there may well be an attack by the United States. Donald Trump had been talking about it. Of course, we know that Iran was involved in talks. The mediator said things were going well, but Donald Trump himself, on a trip to Texas on Friday, said that he was frustrated with Iran, but he hadn't yet made a final decision on whether or not he was going to launch a military strike. There are those in Congress who are dead set against the idea. But of course, there's a pattern to this. There's a mirror to what happened in the summer when we saw what the United States called Operation Midnight Hammer. That started with Israeli attacks in the first instance, normally to take out Iranian air defences, and then that cleared the way for the United States to launch their significant attack to, in Donald Trump's words, obliterate their nuclear program. The problem, of course, is that the United States position has never been that consistent, because while we've heard from Donald Trump saying that he'd obliterated their nuclear program, we had a number of people, including one of the mediators involved in those talks in Oman, saying that now Iran was just weeks away from developing a nuclear weapon. In 6 months, apparently, it rebuilt its entire nuclear arsenal. So, yeah, the short answer is most people expected some sort of United States action, so it is a surprise that Israel has gone first. But there will be speculation here in the United States, inevitably, that this is Benjamin Netanyahu once again trying to force the United States to take action against Iran. And the reason he's done this is to try and force their hand.
Yeah, Alan, are we expecting any kind of response at all? What are US officials likely? I don't know if we've had any response yet. We've not seen it here. In terms of this Israeli preemptive strike, because, as you know, Alan, this comes amid negotiations between US and Iran to get this nuclear deal that Donald Trump's been pushing for.
That's right. And ideally, he would like to see some sort of deal with Iran, because he is aware that his own party base would be dead set against anything that looks like an extended war against Iran. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is there's no guarantee that the United States would walk away from this like they did with the strikes in June, essentially unscathed. And there could be retaliation, and as soon as American troops, American service personnel are injured or are killed, that will turn a great deal of pressure against Donald Trump, not least because he was the man who said he was elected to stop what he described as stupid foreign wars, and many in his own MAGA movement.
They wanted to do it.
Iran, if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
Is a stupid foreign war. Happens over the coming hours, but certainly the time here on the east coast of the United States is just after 1:30 on Saturday morning, so we don't have any formal U.S. reaction, and it's unlikely we'll get anything in the next hour or so, I would suspect.
Yeah, Alan, just before you go,
Of course, this has been going on for several weeks, and we're seeing a huge military presence, including the Gerald R. Ford, which is the biggest, most advanced aircraft carrier in the world, which, interestingly enough, is currently in Crete, undergoing a number of repairs,
God damn it.
not least in the world's most
So I'm going to
advanced
start over saying everything I was
carrier,
just saying.
repairs to the
Jesus Christ.
toilets because they aren't working properly, and that has become a significant problem, both health-wise and morale-wise. But we've seen a number of planes.
Welcome, ex-viewers.
At various United States air bases. We've seen the number of personnel increased significantly there as well. It is what the British used to call at the beginning of the 19th century gunboat diplomacy in the eyes of many, that we want to talk to you, but before we do, we are going to park our gunboats off your coast. And it felt to many that's exactly what was happening, and there were parallels to the Gulf War in 2003. While George Bush was suggesting that there would be discussions and there was the possibility for a peace deal with Iraq, the reality was you don't put as many troops as you did into places like
Let's see if
Kuwait and
this
around
happened
the
like
region,
about 15 minutes ago, I
with
think.
the intention of bringing them home.
So there's not going to be
So many
much
people felt
reliable
that the build-up
information on
would
this.
lead to something. But there is concern
All right, so let's
from
play
Dan
these
Kane, who's the
videos
chairman of the
outside.
Joint Chiefs of Staff, that an extended war is something that the United States can't really control in the way that Donald Trump has been able to control the narrative.
All right, here's some recent images out. What was hit? Apartheid Israel has launched another unprovoked attack on Iran in the midst of negotiations. Trump admin greenlit the assault and it will eventually enter the war because it is a vehicle for Israeli influence. The Zionist axis bears all consequences of the coming calamity. This is from Max Blumenthal 2 minutes ago. This literally happened within the past 5 minutes. How long I've been like? No, it happened within the past 15 minutes. Israel has launched an attack against Iran. So let's go back to the Al Jazeera feed, see what they're talking about. They still have the same
Extended
pictures
war opens up the possibility of things going differently. As Eisenhower, who planned the D-Day,
We're doing it. We're doing it.
Says plans are useless. Planning is essential. So you plan for these things, but once it starts, you've no idea where it's going to go.
All right, Al Jazeera's chief U.S. correspondent, Alan Fisher there. Alan, we'll no doubt be coming back to you throughout the course of the morning. If you're just joining us here on Al Jazeera, let's just update you on the breaking news here that the Israeli military has launched what the defense minister said was a preemptive strike against Iran. Apparently, essential sectors there were exempted. This is according to the Israeli military. 3 explosions have been reported in the capital, Tehran. At least one is in downtown and one from the north of the city. That's according to sources close to Al Jazeera. Let's bring in Mehran Kamrava. He's the director of the Iranian Studies Unit at the Arab Center for Research
what will
and
be
Policy
the
Studies.
response from Iran? That is what everyone is worried about.
Georgetown University in Qatar. First of all, Mehran, you've been following this story.
This may have been like it doesn't seem like any major military targets have been struck. What it's reporting is that officers for Al Khomeini were struck near the palace. So what this may be is Israel launching probing attacks into Iran, so they can trigger the air defenses, so they can get like a mapping of where all of the air defenses are stationed. And then from there, they can continue with a more sustained attack. So this might have been like a probing just to see which systems come online.
Precisely in between negotiations, just as the Iranians and the Americans were set to meet yet again. After another successful round of negotiations, we heard from the Iranian foreign minister how the negotiations last Thursday were quite successful. And so just as progress is made tangibly, Israel steps in to ensure that they're derailed.
But we were just talking to our chief U.S. correspondent, Alan Fisher, and he, about whether or not, the U.S. had given the green light to this operation. Why would the U.S. give the green light to this operation for Israel to derail the talks if they were actually, if the U.S. and led by Donald Trump was trying to get this deal from Iran in terms of its nuclear program?
Right. I think Donald Trump had pushed himself into a corner from which he couldn't back out. The so-called armada, the massive military buildup, the constant green lights to Israel over the last year and a half. And so I think in many ways, yet again, what we see is that the Israelis forced Donald Trump's hand and that he couldn't really say no to them at this juncture.
So Mehran, does this strike on Iran now put an end then to these indirect talks between Washington and Tehran? I mean, there was hope that military action could be averted if a deal was struck between the Americans and the Iranians, but they've been blindsided by the Israelis to some extent. So what happens now then?
Well, the Iranians have been actually expecting an attack from the Israelis. We'll have to wait and see how Iran's response will be, first and foremost militarily, and secondly diplomatically. So it is quite conceivable, although rather improbable, that the Iranians would react militarily but keep the diplomatic track going. Although knowing Khamenei's modus operandi, that might be somewhat difficult to accomplish. But we'll have to wait and see how the Iranians react. It could very well be that they will maintain a military posture on the one hand in relation to Israel if the Americans do not get involved, unlike last time, and then they would keep a separate diplomatic track. But I think the next few hours and certainly the next day or two will be quite telling.
Yeah, I mean, Israel sees Iran as the main regional threat to its security. Just to remind our viewers that last year there was that 12-day war between both sides. With this strike now, so far we're hearing that it possibly
I know that, bad boy. I'm using OBS,
but of course that
so
won't be enough for Israel,
chat,
who sees Iran's nuclear
the
program,
interface that I'm seeing, I can't really click on his name to ban him.
Intact. I mean, that poses an existential threat to Israel.
It's not giving me the options to ban anyone.
Well, yes, it does. I mean, that's at least what Benjamin Netanyahu and members of his cabinet say. Let's also remember that the Iranians have constantly been telling us that they would react massively to any strike, even if it's a limited strike. So we'll have to wait and see how Iran will retaliate over the next couple of hours or over the next day or two. And certainly there are people within the Iranian Revolutionary Guards who have been agitating for another round of attacks with both the Israelis and the Americans. They want to dispel this assumption.
So like I said, this attack happened near the offices of Ayatollah Khamenei. So reporting from Iran Observer, reports of an assassination attempt on Ayatollah Khamenei and President Pezeshkian by the U.S. and Israel. So this may have been like a decapitation strike because like it happened near the offices. Breaking news, breaking news. Israel has launched an attack against Iran. So this is like the offices, near the offices of the president and supreme leader. This can all, maybe they got information that Khomeini, what time is it over there right now? It looks like daytime, and this decided it's the doesn't Iran have this is their Sabbath. And Israel launched an attack against Iran on their Sabbath. God bless them.
And regional actors that Iran is weakened. And so I think we'll have to wait and see how the Iranians will react and what the extent of Iran's reaction would be.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the Iranian response.
The response is what's going to matter here.
Iranians will respond now? I mean,
are we going to see Iran raining missiles on Israel again like we did a few months ago?
They were expecting an attack from the
Israelis. Does that make you guys excited?
Any Iranian response playing out?
Well, if the Revolutionary Guards are to be taken at their word, the attack will be quite massive. But they've been saying that in response to an American attack, not necessarily an Israeli attack. Now, if they attack massively against Israel, obviously the United States will have to be involved, given U.S.-Israeli relations and given Donald Trump's repeated assurances to Israel. And so, I fear we have not seen. I fear we're in for an extremely rough time, given that the Iranians have said they would react.
How is the crypto market reacting to
with
this?
their
Let's
most
take a look.
advanced weapons first, rather than saving them for last, as they did back in June.
Yeah, Mehran, and there is a broader worry, is there not, that this strike in Iran could now spiral into a much broader conflict, particularly with any military response from Iran that you've just talked about. We saw that happen last year with Iran firing missiles into the US base here in Qatar and also at Israel. I mean, how worried are regional players going to be about what's happened now in the last half an hour or so and how this might play out in the hours ahead?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Darren. This is extremely worrying for regional actors and for those like you and I who live in the region, because obviously bases like Al Udeid, American military bases in the United Arab Emirates, American military buildup in Jordan, in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, those are all now within Iranian missile reach, and it can be quite worrying. I think regional actors are justifiably worried and are busily at work encouraging Iran, at least not to attack bases or targets within their territories, and to maintain or to curtail an Iranian response as much as possible.
Oh, no, look at that.
Stay with us, won't you, please, because we just want to give a quick summary to our viewers who are just joining us here. The Israeli military has launched what the defense minister said was a preemptive attack.
Oh, I didn't see this
Apparently,
down
essential
part right
sectors were exempted.
Oh, no, Bitcoin.
To the Israeli military. 3 explosions were reported
in the
capital, Tehran, at least 1 in the downtown area and 1 from the north of the city. That's according to sources close to Al Jazeera. We're also hearing Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is not in the capital, Tehran. He's been transferred to a secure location.
That's a long-ass name, man.
And that's according to officials.
That's too much work, bad boys.
Israel has closed its airspace to all civilian flights. The U.S. Embassy in Qatar has implemented a shelter-in-place order for all personnel and recommended all Americans to do the same until further notice. Mehran, let's just come back to you, if we can, to keep this discussion going. Look, we've seen Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu make more visits to the White House, probably than any other leader since Trump started his second term. Experts say that he may actually be pushing for a longer military campaign with a goal of toppling the Eurasian regime. But that doesn't necessarily fit in, possibly, with Trump's preference for what we understand.
Welcome, guys, to the Slimy Show.
Strike. So what
like
is
and
the
subscribe,
Israeli
share with your friends.
They're just talking about a
World War III has started.
And so far it seems to be
How
3
you guys
locations across Iran at the moment. But what is Israel's end game here? Or what is the aim of this preemptive strike?
What we have seen is that the Israelis have
this was a decapitation strike against Al-Khomeini.
Localized conflict, whether it's Syria, Lebanon, or any of the other immediate areas of Israel, and they've sought to draw in Iran because, according to Israeli calculations, once Iran is drawn in, then the United States would have to be drawn in. And so this is kind of a perfect example of an Israeli playbook to launch limited strikes on Iran, provoke Iran into a massive attack, then in turn provoke the United States into a prolonged involvement. We know also, as you mentioned,
Iran was talking a lot of shit before this, so let's see how they strike back.
At least Trump has. And within the Trump
this just started within the past
we've got people
26 minutes.
Vice President Vance,
so
who
if Iran was to launch a missile right now, it would take like what? A few hours before it hits Israel.
Who just a couple of days ago,
I think like 5 hours,
talked about
Iranian
missiles as an existential threat,
we won't
not just to the United
for right
States,
now.
but to America's regional
what
allies.
What is the status of the leadership over there in Iran?
Close to calling for regime change. And so what we have is kind of lack of consistency on the part of the United States in terms of exactly how.
This is right now the Sabbath over there for the Muslims. I think it's Ramadan going on right now. So why would the United States bomb government offices if most likely the leader is not going to be there? I don't understand the point of this strike being launched on a Saturday. I know the Trump administration likes to do this kind of stupid shit on the weekends when the stock market is closed and they can't really react. But this seems to me like a probing attack, where they're trying to trigger the air defenses so they can get a mapping of where everything is, at least on the missile track towards these buildings right here. What is the response that Iran is going to take?
Next guest. Let's just bring you another piece of news we're getting here. A U.S. official has just told Al Jazeera that the United States is launching joint strikes with Israel.
Oh,
so
wow.
if you're just joining us here in Al Jazeera, we're getting these lines coming in
The
thick
United
and fast,
States and
because of this
Israel
breaking news story,
are now
that the
attacking
US
Iran.
is actually making joint attacks. They are working with Israel on these attacks on Iran. Let's bring in Akiva Eldar. He's
Okay,
an Israeli
so it's
political
on.
analyst. Akiva, you're in Tel Aviv.
So now
We've been talking
now,
to you
now
now
we're
for
going to
many
find
months,
out if all that
about
shit
the
that
build-up,
Iran was talking, if it's true or not.
intentions and the US military
Are they
assets,
really going to
in the region.
sink our
What's your
battleship?
response, first of all, to the news of the attacks, this preemptive strike by Israel?
The United
this morning
States has
on Iran?
entered the fray.
Good morning, Darren. First of all, you know, we woke up this
Oh,
morning
boy.
with something that was familiar.
Good
to
morning,
us a
good
year
morning,
ago,
everyone.
and
Good
we wanted to
morning.
forget.
We are at war.
This is the sirens and
Will you
making
send your
sure that
kids
the
to die
sealed
for
room
BlackRock?
is
How are you feeling
available,
today,
and we have
parents?
enough mineral water there, and to call the children and the grandchildren to make sure that everybody is okay.
The United States
Now it
ordered
looks
an
different.
evacuation of
It is
all
clear
non-essential
that it
civilians
has to do
from
with
Iran today. They
domestic
issued that
politics.
order. And now tonight, here we are with
poll
the United States
published
and
yesterday in
Israel
one of the
both attacking Iran.
newspapers that shows that
So it's
close
game
to
on.
2/3 of the Israelis, of the Israeli public, is in favor of war with Iran,
All right, let's see the oil prices.
than reaching some settlement between Trump and the Iranian regime. The other thing is that every evening in the news,
So oil prices has not
the
really reacted to this
networks
yet.
are offering
It's
some
still at
kind of
$67
interview
a barrel.
with
That's one of
Iranian,
the reasons
with,
why Trump
of
likes
course,
doing this shit on the
his
weekends,
face covered,
because
that
the market really don't
is
react
telling us about the
to these kind of shocks
atrocities, what
immediately.
is happening there.
But if
And
this was on a weekday,
Netanyahu is
you
playing
would
kind
see
of a Robin
the price
Hood.
of
He's
this
coming now
like
to
shooting up
save
in
the
a straight
Iranian
line.
people. And this is the big difference, because this is happening after the big,
Bitcoin is not doing so well.
involvement of many Iranian people in the kind of revolution, and
I had expected
what the Iranian
Bitcoin
regime
to
is
be
doing
at all-time
to its
highs
people.
because
So
of this,
now
but
Israel
apparently it's
wants
not.
to appear as the
The
peacemaker
Epstein list
in the
totally
Middle
fucked up
East,
Bitcoin.
and saving the Iranian
Now no one
people
trusts it anymore.
from the Ayatollahs and from their own leaders.
Akiva Eldar, thank you so much for joining us on Al Jazeera. To our viewers around the world, if you're just joining us, it is coming up to 7 GMT. That is 9 a.m. in Israel and about 10:30 a.m. in Tehran. And in the last hour, Israel has launched what it calls a preventative attack on Iran. Smoke and explosions are being reported in and around the Iranian capital of Tehran. The attack again began just in the past hour. In the last few minutes, a U.S. official has told Al Jazeera that the United States is now participating in those strikes. This is coming as the third round of talks on Iran's nuclear program just wrapped up in Geneva. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he was not pleased with this latest round of nuclear talks with Iran, but did say that he still wanted to reach a deal with Tehran. But now Israel has launched an attack on Iran before a deal is reached. Let's bring in Osama bin Javid in Geneva, who is covering those nuclear talks for us. So here we are, Osama. This is what many people feared, that there would be an attack if a deal wasn't reached.
But wait a minute, they did something similar like this a few months ago.
Osama bin Javid in Geneva, can you hear me?
And there was really no response from them.
Okay, we seem to have
I think they decapitated
to Osama bin Javid in Geneva there. Hopefully we'll get him back on very soon.
Those
Palestinian
officials
of where the
when they were
diplomacy
negotiating?
stands right now, given this latest development and Iran coming under attack
Well, that was
by
Palestine,
Israel.
but this
Let's
is
bring
Iran.
in Alan Fisher in the meantime. That's our chief U.S. correspondent who's on the phone from Washington, D.C. Alan, as I was saying just a few hours ago, President Trump was saying that he would still want to reach a deal with Iran. And yet here we are now with this Israeli attack on Iran and the U.S. saying that it's actually joining this strike.
What's interesting is that I was speaking to someone in the last few hours. Throughout Friday, speculation was growing that there was the possibility of some sort of U.S. military action. And he suggested if there was military action, it was likely to take the form of, in his words, one and done, that there would be one strike. It would be, in his view, to focus Iranian attention and say, look, this is what we're doing just now, but there could be a lot worse ahead if you don't come to some sort of deal. Because as we heard from the Omani negotiator in Geneva, he felt there was movement towards a deal, that it might take a bit of time, but the heart of the deal was there. That simply wasn't reflected on what Donald Trump was saying as he flew to Texas on Friday. He said that he was upset with the Iranians and he hoped there would be a deal, but he hadn't yet made a decision on whether or not there should be a military strike. And on his trip to Texas, he was accompanied by Ted Cruz, a Republican senator, and Lindsey Graham, a senator from North Carolina, who have proved to be sounding boards in the past. And he said that he was speaking to them, consulting with them, asking them their opinion. We know that Lindsey Graham is very keen on a strike against Iran. He wants to see some sort of regime change there. But it was hoped that perhaps wiser heads would prevail and point Donald Trump in the direction of the views of his allies in the Middle East, who have warned against a strike of this kind. They are worried that an extended war would destabilize the region significantly. Yeah. So it may just be that it is one and done, and it's the United States putting pressure on Iran to come to a deal. But of course, the Iranians have said this is no way to carry out diplomacy. You cannot do that. You cannot negotiate at the end of a gun. Some in the Iranian regime have even said, look, you can't negotiate with terrorists. And if they're threatening to hurt you, then...
Indeed. I mean, big question now is...
to see how long this lasts and how long it goes on.
Right. And as you say, there's no
happy now, bad boys,
as to how long this will go on. And the question being also now that whether this strike will complicate the negotiations if they do indeed continue. Also worth reminding our viewers, Alan, that this is coming, of course, as we've seen a huge U.S. military buildup in this region with 2 carrier groups and hundreds of aircraft arriving in the region, even as the negotiations, as the diplomacy was going on. You know, presumably there will be some sort of retaliation from Iran. We don't know the extent of it. We don't know what it's going to look like. The U.S. would have been preparing for a retaliation.
And they have been.
All right, so here's a video. Americans are launching cruise missiles from Syria at targets in Iran. So that's what missiles look like when they're flying. You can actually see them. Wow.
ورا حر ليك ودوان نية متسنة والله الرنج نزيك سل صار غروي سيكا ها كنو قال النظمة بو شوروا خليك اللي بينا مقرونة دا والله بتختيب الرولة باكلو قال النظمة هو قال النظمة
So they're launching missiles from Syria to Iran. So strikes against Qom, Isfahan, and Karamabad, 3 cities. Ayatollah Khomeini is not present in Tehran. He is currently believed to be alive. And I think also today in Iran, if I recall, protests had started afresh again today in Iran. And the last ploy that the United States was trying is when they sank the currency and they had the people in the streets. The plan was to actually attack while the people were protesting so that they can cause more confusion. It seems that's maybe what happened again today. So 23 minutes ago, Iran Observer reported reports of an assassination attempt on Ayatollah Khamenei and President Pezeshkian by the US and Israel. This is still fresh, everything is still fresh. And up to 9 hours ago, this is what they were talking about.
Because now we are talking about zero stockpiling. And that is very, very important, because if you cannot stockpile material that is enriched, then there is no way you can actually create a bomb, whether you enrich or don't enrich. And I think this is really something that has been missed a lot by the media, and I want to clarify that from the standpoint of a mediator.
So explain that. So the enriched material, the things that could be used as nuclear fuel for a bomb, you're saying
this
Iran
is Zionist media, by the way,
would not keep on their own soil?
They would give it up.
They would give it up?
They will not be able to actually accumulate that material that will enable them to create a bomb. There's no accumulation. So there will be zero accumulation, zero stockpiling, and full verification. That is also equally important achievement, I think. A full and comprehensive verification by the IAEA, which is the agency in charge of this file.
The UN nuclear watchdog.
That's
right. So you're saying all enriched material would be shipped someplace else, not Russia, but...
No, the current stockpiles that still exist.
The things that are still in Iran.
I think that there is agreement now that this will be downblended to the lowest level possible, to a neutral level, a natural level, which means, and converted into fuel, and that fuel will be irreversible.
That would be significant if Iran agreed to that.
It is very significant, and I think we have agreement on that, in my view.
In your view?
Yes.
And this was 9 hours ago. Now here we are. We are bombing Iran. Let's go back to Al Jazeera and see what they're talking about.
6 hours with the likes of the Israeli embassy the United States embassy in Jerusalem ordering the evacuation of all but essential staff. That was a hint that there was something that was going on, that there was concern. And of course they were saying, well, the talks are still continuing. This would happen in the normal course of escalating tensions, but it was
welcome, ex-viewers. Welcome.
Moment. And of course,
it seems I have the most viewers from X.
Not just against Israel, who said this.
I might be the only one live covering this.
But now the United States and United States targets because they are saying that they are participating. We don't know the level of participation. We don't know if it was just intelligence. We don't know if there was some sort of logistics involved. But we know that the United States, as you say, Paulie, has a significant presence in the Middle East at the moment. It has been a huge build-up over the last number of months, and the concern was that the United States wasn't just putting its troops in the region to walk away. They were putting their troops in the region to carry out some sort of military strike. And of course, the US is buoyed by Operation Midnight Hammer, the operation in June, which Donald Trump insisted had obliterated Iran's nuclear program. It went incredibly well for the United States, but getting involved in something beyond a one and done, for want of a better phrase, would lead to significant risks for the United States and politically for Donald Trump.
Yeah, let's just show our viewers the military buildup in the region that you've been talking about there, Alan, as U.S. officials confirmed that U.S. strikes on Iran are underway after an initial strike by the Israelis. These attacks, again, coming weeks after the U.S. really built up its military in the region. The world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, has been deployed. It left its naval base in Crete on Thursday and arrived in Israeli waters on Friday afternoon. The Ford's 2 nuclear reactors powered advanced aircraft launch systems, allowing it to operate up to 220 missions per day. It joins the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln. That carrier operates up to 70 aircraft, including FA-18 fighter jets and surveillance planes. Its nuclear propulsion system also allows long-term deployment. They're being escorted by guided missile cruisers and destroyers, giving it air defense strike and anti-submarine capabilities. So, Alan, a huge military posture in this region. The concern now, of course, is that if Iran strikes U.S. bases in the region in response, to what extent Washington would escalate.
Exactly, but they have the military hardware in the region to do it. They have put more in the area just in the last week or so. So the feeling always was that we were heading towards some sort of war. But as I said, there are political concerns here for Donald Trump. He campaigned on no stupid foreign war, something that most of his MAGA base agrees with. So now to get involved in attacking Iran, which is half a world away, and constantly insist there is no intentions of developing nuclear weapons, that it's not heading in that direction, many in MAGA will be worried about what the United States is getting involved in. But not just MAGA, on Capitol Hill as well. There was talks of passing a War Powers Act, which would suggest that if there was to be any sort of extended conflict with the Iranians, then Donald Trump must go to Congress and seek approval. He and his team don't believe that is necessary, that under war powers they can take this action. But there will be a great deal of disquiet, and not just among Democrats, among Republicans as well, who are worried about the United States being dragged into yet another quagmire in the Middle East.
Yeah, very important to highlight again that the U.S. Congress has not been consulted about possible U.S. involvement in any attack on Iran. Alan, stay with us. I'm going to bring in Osama bin Javid, who's in Geneva, covering the diplomacy for us. The latest strikes on Iran coming despite Oman's foreign minister, who's been acting as a mediator in the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, saying he was optimistic about the negotiations. Just 24 hours ago, Badr al-Busaidi has been mediating the indirect talks between Washington and Tehran. He met with the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday, and he spoke to U.S. media, the Omani foreign minister, saying that Iran had agreed to not stockpile enriched uranium and described the development as a breakthrough. Let's listen to that. Okay. We're not going to listen to that just yet. We're going to go to Osama bin Javid in Geneva. So, there was cautious optimism, Osama, about, the talks progressing and about a deal possibly being reached. And yet here we are with Israel striking Iran and the U.S. also involved. Where does that leave diplomacy?
Well, I think it's a deja vu because this is happening again. The Iranians have come under attack once again while they were lured onto the negotiating table, as one diplomat told me. It is with not just cautious optimism, but it was real progress. On Monday, you were expecting technical teams to arrive in Vienna, the headquarters of the International Atomic Energy Agency, happening after the Iranians gave a written proposal to the United States negotiators, happening as the Omani foreign minister was in the U.S., telling the U.S. vice president that there's been a lot of headway, that they're at a place where they had never been. The Iranians have agreed that they will get rid of their stockpile of enriched uranium. They will not make a nuclear weapon, not just for a limited time, but not forever. So it comes off the backdrop of all of this diplomatic push to try and de-escalate. But the Iranians were ready for this. And this is what they were telling us here in Geneva as well. One diplomatic source told us that, yes, we believe in diplomacy. We're here, unlike the United States, with all our advisors and experts, but we're ready for all other options. And one person who had spoken to the Iranian foreign minister's security detail told me that there appears to be a plan in place, a three-tier plan in place, that if Israel attacks Iran, they are going to reply back to Israel. They're going to attack Israel. And if that doesn't stop, then they are going to hit U.S. military assets in the region, especially the naval assets. And the third phase of that would be to hit U.S. military bases. That is according to one source close to the Iranian foreign minister. So it appears that there were wheels in motion in anticipation of this, but there was hope that this could be resolved on the table because the Iranians have showed that they don't want to make a nuclear weapon. They want to comply with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and they want to negotiate with the United States. But it appears that, as we've seen before 8 months ago, that the Iranians were brought to the negotiating table, and as the negotiations were going on, as this round concluded after multiple rounds here in Geneva, that they've gone back and attacked Tehran. So it is early days to see how the Iranians are going to report back. But as the conversations I've had with various Iranian journalists and diplomats, it appears that Iran is poised to strike
that
back.
the United States will be participating in a second round of attacks against Iran.
That unfolded in June of 2025 when
really,
Iran
really
was in the midst of negotiations. It got attacked back in June, and here we have a similar situation. And also, as you said,
would they attack?
This happening as Oman's foreign minister is in the U.S., and as the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio himself was
and they're doing this stuff with civilian aircraft still in the air.
You wonder whether there must have been some coordination, obviously, between the U.S. and Israel, because the Americans have said they're involved in this initial attack on Iran.
This may have been some kind of decapitation strike, at least that's what it's been reported.
Now
usually before the United States
whether in
launches
Geneva
any
or elsewhere or
major
Vienna,
action
as it was talked about,
against the country, they will usually close off the airspace. But this time they did not. The airspace is still active over Iran, and all of these planes are still running. This is some crazy shit.
Well, it will be very difficult to see how the track of negotiations can continue, because if Tehran is constantly being attacked and being asked to come to the table, it would be difficult to see how they comply. If you go with what happened last time around, Iran immediately pulled out of the negotiations, said that it cannot continue its negotiations. It pulled out of the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty and said its nuclear facilities have been struck in an unprecedented strike. This is and have never been seen before, that nuclear processing facilities would be hit by the United States and Israel. So
14 hours ago, China ordered their citizens to leave Iran.
Very, very likely.
So they knew, China knew this was going to happen. So they should have been prepared.
And you've been hearing the rhetoric from the Iranian hawks as well in the lead up to all of this.
So China ordered their citizens to leave Iran, and the United States also gave, I remember hearing this like about 8 hours ago. The United States ordered its citizens, urged its citizens to leave Iran.
And this will be seen as an existential threat. Now, what is here really, really important is to see what are the extent of these strikes. How long will they continue?
The United States
what are
and
the
Israel
targets? What are they going to hit in Iran? Because Iran has said that any attack on its territory is going to culminate in a regional protracted crisis, and that is something which we will have to wait to see.
There seems to be civilian areas they're striking.
Iran does not want to go into a war of attrition. What happens when Tehran and other provinces are hit simultaneously over and over again by the United States, as its military capabilities and its leadership is targeted. This, according to Iran, ahead of these
breaking
strikes,
reports of assassination attempts on President Pezeshkian, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who is reportedly not in Tehran and has been moved to a secure location. Explosions heard in Isfahan, Qom, Damascus, Karaj, and Karamabad, and possible attacks in Lebanon. So Isabella Fiorella is reporting this.
We'll have to wait and see on
so this is more than the 3 targets we mentioned earlier.
What was the
earlier we mentioned Isfahan, Qom,
and how does Iran strike back?
Osama, thank you very much.
Yeah, these are whole new names that Fiorella is
That's
bringing up here.
46 a.m. in Tehran. In a reminder of our breaking news story on Al Jazeera, if you're just joining us, the US and Israel have launched an attack on Iran. Israel called it a preventative attack on Tehran. Smoke and explosions are being reported in and around the Iranian capital, Tehran. They're now also being seen and heard in other parts of the country. The attack began around 9:20 GMT, 6:20
Global
GMT,
evacuation wave. 15 plus countries tell citizens to get out of Iran now. Tensions are spiking and governments worldwide are hitting the panic button, urging their people to leave Iran. Australia, leave as soon as possible. Brazil, get out following Lebanon alert. Canada, leave immediately due to risk of hostilities. China, evacuate by commercial means right away. Cyprus, avoid all travel, leave now. Finland, avoid Iran, consider leaving Israel, Lebanon too. Germany, no travel, leave promptly. India, all citizens, students, pilgrims, exit by any transport. Poland, leave immediately. Serbia, get out due to deteriorating security. Singapore, avoid travel, leave Iran. South Korea, do not travel to Iran. Sweden, avoid all travel, leave immediately. UK, heightened risk, staff already pulled out. US, leave Iran now, land routes via Armenia and Turkey if needed.
Not only in Tehran, but also in several other cities, including Qum, which is not far from the capital
Plus, the UK officially withdrew embassy staff over this.
And Kermanshah, another important Iranian city. The news lines talk about strikes on one of the most important airports in Tehran, in Iran itself, the second most important, and also near the presidential palace. That district is called Pastor.
Let me take off my camera.
That's where some of the government institutions are, even including the presidential palace. But so far, we do not have any confirmation or any lines, any information about any high-ranking officials being killed in this attack. There are reports of people who have been wounded there in the Pastor area, and they are being evacuated to the hospitals. And also there is a little bit of chaos behind me in the streets. There is a very, very interesting traffic jam here. That gives an indication about the panic in the streets of Tehran. Several locations, as I said, in Tehran have been targeted, including near the University of Tehran and also some of the other important streets. The information is still gloomy, but we get more from outside Tehran than from outside Iran than from inside Iran itself, because the Israelis have been talking about several attacks. Some of the sources in Israel talking about more than 30 attacks. Other sources talk about 3 major targets in Iran, and probably some targeting high-ranking officials. But as I said, there is no confirmation of that. We are in this situation here, and we don't know yet, as anybody else, whether this is going to be a one-off until a reaction comes from Iran, or there will be a continuation. I understand, or I know even, that there was some time between the first explosions and the second wave of explosions, about half an hour. So we do not know if that's going to be a pattern, and if we're going to see more attacks later today, even if Iran hasn't yet reacted or hasn't yet attacked back, or this is going to be just one attack to see what's the reaction in Iran. The officials, the American officials, the Israeli officials have been actually talking about this. Israeli is starting first, but also we know that it has been a joint operation between the two countries. But the fact that Israel has been the first to announce that it has launched these attacks is very interesting. It corroborates what has been reported during the last few days, that the American-Israeli plan is that Israel attacks first, and if there is a huge reaction from Iran, then the Americans have to intervene to protect their ally Israel. And that's probably going to be the beginning of a much longer, much more protruded attack on Iran to either compel the Iranians to give up their nuclear program, or probably regime change. Lots of those things have been talking about. We don't know specifically. Still listening and waiting for more details from all the sides.
And waiting to see how Iran will respond. Of course, Mohammed Vali in Tehran for the moment. Thank you, Mohammed, describing panic and chaos on the streets of Tehran as Iran comes under attack from the US and Israel. It was Israel first that announced that it had hit Iran. Explosions were heard in the Iranian capital, Tehran. Iranian media reporting that the attacks happened nationwide as Israel first announced launching these airstrikes. They are against Iran, and according to a U.S. official who's been speaking to the Reuters news agency, the strikes were launched by air and by sea, and several ministries in southern Tehran have been targeted. Our correspondent on the ground there bringing us the latest on the situation. We'll keep a close eye, of course, on what's happening inside Iran. But also earlier on Saturday morning, Israel carried out airstrikes in southern Lebanon. The Israeli army says it targeted Hezbollah military infrastructure in the Iqlim al-Tufa region. The attacks are the latest breach, of course, of a ceasefire which is agreed between Lebanon and Israel in late 2024. Zaina Khader is in Beirut for us. We've seen these Israeli attacks on Lebanon regularly in the last year since the ceasefire was agreed. But is this latest one related to what's happening in Iran right now, Zaina?
Well, it is not being seen as an isolated incident. The timing, roughly an hour before the Israeli military carried out what it called preventative strikes in Tehran, the Israeli Air Force carrying out a series of attacks in southern Lebanon in the Iqlim al-Tufa region. This is a mountainous region, a very strategic region in southern Lebanon. Yes, they've hit it time and time again over the past year or so, despite that ceasefire. But like I said, in the past few days, there's been an escalation, a pattern of escalation. On Thursday night, for example, the Israeli army carried out a wave of airstrikes in the east of the country in the Bekaa area, an area where the Israeli military believes is the operational base of Hezbollah, a place where Hezbollah keeps its strategic weapons, whether they are long-range weapons, precision-guided weapons, drone manufacturing facilities, weapons depots, and it believes Iqlim al-Tufa also is where Hezbollah has strategic weapons. So this escalation of attacks really has caused a lot of concern in Lebanon that the country could be dragged into a potential conflict, which is now happening between Israel, Iran, and the United States, because Hezbollah being Iran's strategic and ideological ally. So these attacks are being seen as preventive attacks to limit the possibility of Hezbollah responding if it chooses to do so, because that in itself is another question.
Zaina, of course, Hezbollah has been considerably weakened since its conflict with Israel. How might it respond? Will it get involved if there's a prolonged conflict between Tehran, Iran, and Israel and the U.S.?
Yes, it has been a question on everyone's minds in Lebanon. Even Lebanon's top political leadership has been repeating time and time again, warning Hezbollah not to launch what it is calling a new adventure and drag the country into another conflict. But you said, and you pointed out, how Hezbollah has been badly weakened, suffering major blows in the last year or so. Israeli attacks continue against its leadership, against its weapons depots. And, you know, it's a very difficult decision for Hezbollah to get involved. Israeli intelligence assessments say that they believe Hezbollah still has an arsenal of missiles that it is able to use, but they will not pose any existential threat to Israel, a much more superior army. And Hezbollah also knows that if it does get involved in this conflict, it could trigger a harsh response by the Israeli army and its people, its constituency, its supporters. They will pay the price. Israel could carry out dozens of airstrikes in Beirut's southern suburbs, causing even more devastation, causing more displacement. There are still tens of thousands displaced by the late 2024 conflict. So very difficult decisions. A few weeks ago, Hezbollah's Secretary General said, and he was speaking during an event in solidarity with Iran, he said, as far as how we would act, those are the details. The battle itself will determine. We are expecting to hear from Hezbollah Secretary General in a few hours' time. This was a scheduled address, but no doubt he will have to comment on the latest developments and the strikes on Iran.
Zeina Khodr in Beirut, thank you very much for now. We will, of course, check in regularly with you to find out the latest there from Lebanon. If you're just joining us on Al Jazeera, we're bringing you extensive coverage of this breaking news story. Israel and the United States have attacked Iran. This happened about an hour or so ago. Explosions were heard in the Iranian capital, Tehran, as well as in Isfahan, Qom, Karaj, and Kermanshah. Israel announced that it was launching a preemptive attack on Iran, and some 20 minutes later, the U.S. announced that it was also involved in that attack. Iranian media reporting that the attacks are happening nationwide as Israel launched these airstrikes, but now Tehran saying also that it's preparing for retaliation and that the response will be crushing. We have extensive coverage, as I said. Diplomatic editor James Bays is here with us.
Let's go! Crushing!
Iran extensively is also with us. We have our chief U.S. correspondent in Washington, D.C., Alan Fisher, as well as Zeina Khodr in Beirut. And various guests will be analyzing and reacting to the news as we get the latest developments. Let's bring in Alan Fisher in Washington for now. Alan, tell us what's the latest from Washington, D.C. The U.S. Confirming that it is also involved in this attack on Iran. What's the extent of its involvement?
Well, I've been texting with someone who surprisingly is awake at 2 in the morning because they also heard of the attacks on Tehran. They seem to suggest that they believe that the United States' involvement in this is towards decapitating the head of the Iranian regime. They say that from what they can understand, the attacks were concentrated in areas where the Supreme Leader may well be living. And so the intention was to try and take out the head of the regime and then see what would happen afterwards. Now, many countries have warned the United States about an extended effort to try and force regime change in Iran. They wanted to know what was the plan for the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that, simply because you couldn't guarantee that if you removed the Supreme Leader, that necessarily what would happen would that a pro-Western, pro-United States government form in his absence. And so there could be a great deal of bloodshed in the aftermath, and they were concerned that that would leak over borders, that that would cause instability across the region, and they would be dragged into a regional war of some description. Now, as I say, that's just someone who is an analyst who understands these things far better than I do, but they suggest that this was a move at decapitation, but it would certainly fit in with some of the ideas that have been floated recently, not least by Lindsey Graham, who was travelling with Donald Trump on Friday, who has said often that he would like to see the Supreme Leader being replaced. So it may well be that the United States' involvement in this was limited to intelligence, but given the size of the US military build-up in the region, there's every possibility that American hardware, American service personnel was also used.
Alan, thank you for now. Ali Hashim, you've covered Iran extensively. If, as Alan said, the objective of this particular attack is to decapitate the head of the Iranian regime, the supreme leader, how difficult of a mission is that?
Well, it's clear from the locations where we saw these attacks are on that the main objective is not just decapitation, but even hitting the command and control in the country. So hitting Pastor Street, where the presidency is, and the Supreme National Security Council, hitting the surroundings of the leader's house and the Assembly of Experts. So it's not only decapitation, but also preventing the Iranians from going towards the plan B, if there's a plan B. Now,
but presumably the Iranians would have prepared for such a scenario.
Now, just in case there is a second plan and a third plan and a fourth plan, and this is what we've been hearing from the Iranians, that there are several contingency plans, given the fact they've already seen this. This is a deja vu moment that they've seen on the 12th of, the 13th of June. Now,
but then, were they going directly after the Supreme Leader in June of last year?
Well, there were 3 attempts on the Supreme Leader's life in the June war, but they failed. There was an attack on the Supreme National Security Council convening, including the President, the the president, the parliament speaker, ministers of intelligence, all the main actors in the Iranian decision-making process. And this also failed, but they were able to hit the command and control in the military, mainly the commanders of the army and the IRGC. So now, even if this succeeded, even if they were able to kill the supreme leader, will this mean that the establishment in Iran is going to collapse? This is a very complicated web of influence and also of councils that is made so that even if the head is gone, it's going to be, it's not going to be an immediate collapse, or it won't collapse directly.
An Iranian official now saying that Tehran is preparing for retaliation, Ali, and that the response will be crushing.
Crushing, let's go!
Well, we know the main
go!
Iranians have is their ballistic missiles. And actually, this is one of the issues that the Americans and the Israelis wanted on the table.
And the Iranian didn't want it on the negotiating
absolutely.
table.
Because they knew that the moment they are going to give up their ballistic missiles, then they are going to be open for any attack. And also, besides that, they have their own drone program that was tested in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine by the Russians. So these are two main military assets that they might be using. Also, there is a possibility that they might be activating the region. Their own presence in the region.
There are proxies in the region like the Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen, of course. But
regardless of the situation right now of Hezbollah or the Iraqis or the Houthis, because each has their own local calculations. But now, if this is heading towards an existential threat for the Islamic Republic, then this whole axis is under existential
Iranian state
threat.
TV
So
is broadcasting war songs. Let's hear it.
James Bays, this U.S.-Israel attack on Iran coming as there was cautious optimism that diplomacy could work. We saw the third round of negotiations in Geneva. The Omani foreign minister in Washington saying that he was, optimistic that they could come up with some sort of a deal. And even Donald Trump saying that even if he wasn't happy with what the outcome of the talks in Geneva was, that he still hoped that there could be a deal. And yet here we are, an attack on Iran. Where does that leave diplomacy and the negotiation?
Can you guys hear this? Syed Mohammed Marandi, Professor Marandi, tweets out, "They strike Iran again during negotiations. They strangle Cubans and they murder Palestinians and Lebanese every day despite the fake ceasefire. People across the world should protest and boycott everything American. The Zionist Epstein-class enemy will be defeated." Let me give that a like and a retweet. Pepe Escobar, that bloody apocalyptic death cult in West Asia finally got their war. Fully supported by puny Neo-Caligula leading from behind. Decapitation strikes even as negotiation was supposed to continue in Vienna on Monday. This was never about the nuclear program. So were the decapitations successful? There is nothing preemptive or preventative about bombing a country that has zero plans to attack you. The Americans and Israelis just started a criminal war of aggression. Iran has a legal right to respond. This is all completely unnecessary and could snowball into an inferno across a region already reeling from endless war and destruction. Our leaders are criminal lunatics. Very well.
We'll only be able to eat on it. We'll only be able to eat on it.
Allegedly Iranian aircraft downing cruise missiles. I didn't see that. According to the battle plan, Israel attacks Iran first to provoke attacks on American troops. That's what I was saying. It's the only way to reverse the tide of popular American opposition to this evil Zionist war. This war is so unpopular, Trump officials are openly saying they are planning to use Israel to goad Iran into attacking U.S. military assets. The response of Iran has to be calculated and well done. I'm not seeing anything about the responses yet. Reuters reports that Israel's terrorist attack against Iran was planned months in advance, and the date was decided weeks ago. Negotiations were a lie, peace was a lie. Israel and the Trump regime are terrorist liars. Yes, they are. Oh! I wanna play this for you guys later on. Cuba has this breakthrough treatment on Alzheimer's. Oh, this is the wrong time to talk about this.
Based physician Dr. Bill Blanchett.
Let me save this for later. Within hours of Oman's foreign minister saying Iran agreed to zero enriched uranium stockpiling, Israel immediately bombs Tehran and the U.S. promptly joins. This is what I was talking about earlier. We played this guy earlier. This can mean it was never about nuclear weapons and the U.S. president is either compromised by Netanyahu or is using war to shape the midterm elections. But this, in the midterm, this will have the Trump side losing badly, and the Democrats then take over.
Dude, I missed the first explosion of True Promise in Tel Aviv. I'm so upset. It's like
Let's go back to see what Al Jazeera is talking about.
Interview he gave just a few hours ago in the US, and he doesn't talk very much in public, saying we've made a breakthrough in these talks. They're no longer going to stockpile enriched uranium. This is something that was never in the previous JCPOA, the Obama deal of 2015. And you have that soundbite, which will be played on breakfast shows in a few hours' time in the US, at the same time as they've launched this attack. And I think there is a problem here for Donald Trump. He has not prepared the world, and particularly his public, for war. This is the biggest armada that's been gathered in the Middle East since 2003 and the attack then. Well, I remember 2003, we had the war, the invasion of Afghanistan, and from days after that, he was preparing the ground, George W. Bush, for the attack on Iraq. They were getting the American people ready. Go all the way back 35 years ago, 1990, and the war again, the Americans attacking Iraq. They built a 42-nation coalition. Nothing like that. In fact, I think many Americans, when they hear about this in the morning, when they wake up in a few hours' time, are going to be spluttering on their cornflakes as they hear what's happened.
Well, I understand that the U.S. President Donald Trump has just posted on Truth Social about this attack on Iran. Alan Fisher in Washington, what is the president saying?
Yeah, well, I'm listening to it now, as you can probably hear. This has been on Truth Social just in the last couple of minutes. What he says is that this is an operation by the United States targeting the government in Iran. At the end of the 8-minute message or so, he says that this is the time for the people in Iran to take control of their government, that they should move immediately and not let this opportunity pass. I can play a bit more of it as we try to find out exactly what was involved in the U.S. operation.
Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut.
He is bringing up history about the operation in 1983 when a number of U.S. Marines were killed in Beirut. He's now saying that
involved with the attack on the USS Cole.
He's also talking about the USS Cole, which often was attributed to
All right, here it is. Let's play this message.
So Donald Trump is laying
in Iran. A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
Wow.
Its menacing
Listen to this
activities
demon.
directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days.
Oh, my
In
God.
1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts.
That's
And it
the
was
United
Iran's
States he's
proxy,
talking about.
Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called,
ladies and gentlemen,
so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future.
Listen to this
and
fucking
it is
demon.
a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond.
He's trying to spark protest.
America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force.
Bastard.
Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Wow. That is a very scary speech. No, why am I liking that?
Short time ago.
All right. So we're at war. I hope Iran totally smashes the shit
Clearly,
out of
he
Israel
sees this
right now.
as justified. There will be questions about why he didn't seek congressional approval before there was widespread military action. At this point, we don't know whether he even consulted with the so-called Group of 8, which are 4 leaders from either side on Capitol Hill on the main committees, to let them know that this was happening. He has bypassed that in the past, suggesting that often there are leaks for this, but confirmation from Donald Trump that this is a sustained military operation that has now been launched in Iran. There was speculation people telling me that this could be one and done. From the language that Donald Trump is using in this Truth Social post, it would suggest that that is not the case, that this is a long-term operation. And we see now why there was such a concentrated military build-up in the region. It was to allow the United States to...
All right, Iran, let's go, let's go. Let's start sinking them ships. Let's
go.
go.
The message you just played, as you said, is
Iran needs to open up with everything.
On Truth Social, and
they're attacking civilian buildings from what I'm seeing so far. So this was a decapitation strike at first.
It'll be very interesting again to hear more of what he said.
Wow.
Interesting that he said that this was a U.S.-led operation, even though the initial attack was announced by the Israelis.
Yeah, it's actually a video message. It was recorded in Mar-a-Lago, where he's spending the weekend. He's attending a dinner this evening for his MAGA Inc. group. He's talking a great deal about Iran's proxies, the likes of Hamas, which may explain why we are seeing the attacks in southern Lebanon over the last couple of hours by the Israelis against what they describe as Hezbollah targets in that region. But Donald Trump saying that no other US president has taken this sort of action against Iran. It was only him that did it. That, of course, is the split personality almost of Donald Trump, who boasts about solving somewhere in the region of 8 wars, but then has launched attacks against a number of countries. And this is the second time in, what, 6-7 months that he's launched an attack on Iran. And of course, he's making the point that this was an attack particularly to stop Iran getting a nuclear weapon. He's talking now about Midnight Hammer. I'm listening to this as I'm playing it out to you, obviously, and trying to decipher exactly what he's saying.
We'll let you listen to it.
He talked about Midnight Hammer.
Yeah, we'll let you go and listen to it and come back to you when you get more. In the meantime, we are showing our viewers here live pictures of the skies over Tel Aviv, and there's been an explosion in Tel Aviv in just the last few minutes. We saw just a few seconds ago on the right-hand side of the screen, if you can go back to it a little bit, smoke, black smoke billowing there over the sky in Tel Aviv. Israel,
they want to nuke Iran.
The attack on Iran
so
also
if
declared a state
Iran
of emergency and closed its
harshly, this will give them a provocation to use nukes on Iran.
Preparing for any missiles launch in a retaliation for its attack on Iran. Akiva Eldar is joining us from Tel Aviv. He's a political analyst, a regular contributor to Al Jazeera. Akiva, can you tell us right now, if you're able to, what's happening in Tel Aviv? Because we've seen an explosion there, it seems, in just the last few minutes.
Well, since the alarm came
Wait, this
out,
is Tel Aviv?
This morning
Hello.
The streets are empty. It's Shabbat. So very slow transportation, and people are at home. They were advised to stay close to the sealed rooms and to the shelters. Actually, in the last few years, people in Tel Aviv got used to it. You can still see in Tel Aviv areas where there are rebels from the last Iranian-Israeli war. So unfortunately, it became a routine for many Israelis, and there are many others who were fed up and left the country. These are the professionals, people from the high-tech industry, professionals in the...
This is exactly what happened last year. Same shit. She made the same
شعب
video.
ليس قادرا على حماية أحد. احفظوها أيها اللبنانيون. 22,000 شهيد، قريب 60,000 جريح، ومجتمع دولي عم يتفرجى. وشوي بلبنان بيقول لك سلموا سلاحكم، نحن بيحمينا القرار الدولي، بيحمينا المجتمع الدولي. ما يعني اسمحوا لي اقول ما عادت القصه اختلاف وجهات النظر، انه والله هذا رايي وهذا رايي وتحترم الاراء. لا، هذا صار عمى قلب، عمى بصر وعمى بصيره. هذه التجربه تقول إن كنت ضعيفا لا يعترف بك العالم ولا يحميك العالم ولا يدافع عنك العالم ولا يبكي عليك العالم، حتى البكاء لا يبكي عليك. يحميك هو قوتك وشجاعتك وقبضاتك وسلاحك وصواريخك وحضورك في الميدان.
He's right.
إن كنت قويا
If you are powerful,
فافرض
then you will command
احترامك على
respect from the
العالم.
world. Nasrallah. Nobody voted for war with Iran.
We're not bombing Lebanon? No, that's Mondays and Thursdays, Shoshana. It's Friday. We bomb Iran on Friday. Oh, right. Get in the box for Israel, baby. Look at that. I mean, that's so true. He's shitting all over our brave American soldiers. Eat shit, right? Go die for Israel. Trump to U.S. troops. Get in the box for Israel. So yeah, I found that to be pretty.
I don't see any attacks on Tel Aviv yet coming true.
We're gonna die. We're gonna lose American lives, but that's okay. That's a price I'm willing to pay because I was paid $300 million not to care. By the way, did you see the ratings on that State of the Union? This is how despicable our president is. This is how shallow, how petty. He treats the office of the presidency like it's a popularity contest. This is just the grossest thing I've seen. Look, we're winning.
It's still here.
Most watched State of the Union since 2003. Well, isn't that low? It was posted 5 hours ago.
All right, nothing about Tel Aviv.
Struck Iran.
Let's see latest.
Most watched SO2 since 2003. Look at this. What a historic night. Earlier today, this is what the White House is posting about.
So air raid sirens are going off all over Israel. It seems they are preparing for incoming. Like I told you all at the start of the stream, it will take a few hours for missiles to actually start arriving in Israel if they started right now. So by the time you wake up in the morning, you might be hearing news that Israel got hit. Yeah, this is just air raid siren so far. They're preparing for that ass kicking that's coming.
So let's go back to this link here. And rewind like 25 minutes.
Everybody is wanting to boom boom Tel Aviv. Justin, Air India's Delhi-Tel Aviv flight A1139 is forced to turn back as Israel and Iran closed their airspaces amid regional tensions. Why wasn't the airspace closed hours ago? This is like some crazy shit.
I'm looking for it. We're doing some high-speed scrubbing as we try to find this Dr. Morandi. Now, I need to start watching RT.
America 7, Big Iran is striking itself. The Israeli army has also announced that it will strike Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. It is stated that the United States will continue its attacks for 4 days. Iran, however, said to evacuate Tel Aviv.
Side of the screen, if you can go back to it a little bit, smoke, black smoke billowing there over the sky in Tel Aviv. Israel, as it announced the attack on Iran, also declared a state of emergency and closed its airspace. It protectively sounded air raid sirens across the country, preparing for any missiles launched in a retaliation. In just the last few minutes, we saw just a few seconds ago on the right-hand side of the screen.
From the Iranian regime. So there we have it, the U.S. president now acknowledging it.
President Trump says we have begun a large-scale operation in Iran aimed at protecting the American people. Yes, okay. Boom, boom, Tel Aviv. Let's go. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Come on, this is what everyone wants to see. Retarded.
Now you feel terror like the Palestinians. Sometimes I feel to have bombs drop on your civilians. You could avoid it all this if you wanted to, but humanity never expected good behavior from you Jews.
Boom, 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 boom. Tel Aviv.
This is what you get for all your evil deeds. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, Tel Aviv. You put this upon yourself. It's your time to bleed.
One more time, one more time.
Skyline lit, and you cry victim and say you didn't start this, but the whole world sees that your lies are retarded. Now you feel terror like the Palestinians. Sometimes I feel to have bombs drop on your civilians. You could avoid it all this if you wanted to, but humanity never expected good behavior from you Jews.
No. Oh, that brought me joy. All right, let's see what BBC is talking about.
Yeah, you can hear more sirens in the streets, but it's kind of business.
Come on, Iran, what you waiting for? Let's go.
in Israel,
Bring the bomb bomb.
this time, especially with Iran, is a solution, is not a problem. People want war rather than settlement between Israel and Iran, as well as with the Palestinian. This leadership needs this war. We are deeply into election campaign, and in the next few weeks, maybe months until the elections that may take place as soon as June.
Right. Akiva, let me just ask you this, because we've heard now from President Trump in just the last few minutes, who's posted a video message on his Truth Social saying that the U.S. military has now begun major combat operations in Iran, suggesting that this is not going to be just a one-off attack, but perhaps a long-drawn conflict. Israel is already involved in Gaza. Even if there's a ceasefire there, there's still effectively a war going on in Gaza. Is Israel prepared to be fighting right now on another front? Are Israelis prepared to be dragged into another conflict?
Yeah, the majority of the Israeli public, the Jewish Israeli, believes that there is no other
You guys
way,
cross your
that,
fingers.
we are doomed
Hopefully this is the end of
live on
Israel.
our sword and wait for
If
the
Iran does the
Messiah.
right thing.
Especially the young voters who actually were born into this situation. They know only Netanyahu and his agenda. And the word peace is hardly heard in the public discourse. And we see in the public polls that a diplomatic settlement between the US and the Iranian was a nightmare for many people. This was the message.
The collective
that is
West
coming
has no
from
shame.
the highest
They carry
echelons,
out genocide
including
and
the
murder.
Israeli
They strangle
military.
nations, and they are
Israel
deceitful at
is
the negotiating
Sparta.
table.
And in Sparta,
Meanwhile,
you
the
get used
Epstein
to
class
this.
legacy media
So, we
demonizes
don't
the
believe
victims
that
and
there is an
pretends this
alternative.
is normal.
For Netanyahu
This great evil
to
must
alter
end
the
and
discourse
will be
from
defeated.
the massacre in Gaza and the thousands of Israelis that were killed in this terrible, was another Saturday and holiday. For him,
It's time to
this
hit
is
the
a
streets,
gift.
guys.
Not talking about his trial, about corruption, about the exemption of the Orthodox youngsters from serving in the military.
Akiva, your sound is breaking
played
up
this
there.
earlier.
Unfortunately, we're going to leave you for a few minutes. We'll come back to you, of course, and check in regularly with you there in Tel Aviv. U.S. President Donald Trump, in just the last few minutes, announcing and confirming that the United States has begun major combat operations in Iran. President Trump says they're doing this because Iran is developing long-range missiles that threaten the U.S. and
The United
others
States
in the
has
region. Let's
declared
listen to
an
President Trump.
all-out war on Iran.
So that's the IRGC,
This isn't limited. It's
which
a
also, as
regime
you know,
change
especially
operation.
the besieged
Many Iranians will
element
die,
of the
but Trump
IRGC
admits U.S.
has been
casualties
used
are
to
inevitable.
oppress the protesters. So
This will
those are the
backfire
kinds
hard
of
on the
things
U.S. empire. The
that,
question
I would
is,
expect
do
to
those
see
living in the U.S. truly want to be
the
governed by
options the
these
president will be
warmongers
looking
and
at
merchants
going
of death?
after if the Iranians
We
did
do not.
negotiate. I also don't think his objective would be an all-out.
Okay, apologies for that. We will try to sort out that clip from President Trump, which he posted on his Truth Social just a short while ago, confirming the beginning of operations against Iran. President Trump says these are major combat operations. We've seen strikes on Iran in the last 2 hours or so, including on the capital, Tehran. Let's go to Mohammed Val, who's in the Iranian capital for us. Mohammed, bring us the latest from where you are. What is the situation? What's been targeted? And any information that you have on this would be appreciated.
This view is better.
Sorry, I will just adjust my position. Yes, we haven't been hearing much from the government side, but police has just issued a statement saying that although there is a major cyber attack on Iranian site, things are under control and they are managing the situation. So those explosions took place at 9:45 this morning, and there were 2 waves at least that we heard here in Tehran, with an interval of about 40 minutes in between. We don't know whether this is going to continue throughout the day, and probably we have just heard, since we have just heard from President Trump that it is going to be probably a sustained campaign. So, I mean, more is expected The targets are several. Some of them are in Tehran, including the Pastor district, which is where some of the strategic locations, their government sites are there, including the presidential palace. But we don't have any confirmation that anybody was hurt, particularly high-ranking officials. There are reports of people being evacuated, wounded people evacuated from the Pastor area. Also, the airport of Mehrabad, the second most important airport in Iran, which is here in Tehran, has been targeted. Several streets also were hit. And we have reports from Fars news agency about other cities, including Qum, which is not far from Tehran, and also Isfahan in the center of the country, and Kermanshah. These cities have been targeted by explosions, by missiles particularly. They said missiles. We know that it is a joint operation between Israel and the United States. Lots of reports coming from Israel about places targeted or probably people targeted, but until now we are in a total blackout with regards to official reports from the Tehran government, for Iran government, if there is anybody hurt. And also we're hearing that the revolutionary guy, the guide of the revolution, the supreme leader of the revolution, Khamenei, is not in Tehran. He has been transferred to a secure location. As I mentioned earlier, there is a little bit of panic in the streets. There is a little bit of traffic jams. So people are really apprehending and feeling that this might get worse.
Okay,
Until
so it
now,
works.
The,
all right, so I'm going to switch to window capture mode
the police saying that the situation is under control.
Capture.
And we don't know whether the government here is deciding on major reaction. We've heard about that explosion in Tel Aviv, but people are listening and expecting more regarding this
that explosion in Tel Aviv, which we saw, is there any indication that Iran is behind that? Presumably the Iranians would have prepared for this attack and also prepared a response to any attack on their soil.
Well, we've been hearing the Iranian officials over the last few days saying that they are ready for peace, but also ready for war, and that there's going to be a reaction equal to the action, and that this time around there is not going to be any compromise with regards to the defense of Iran, also to sending messages to its enemies that any attack on Iran will be reciprocated. So that's why we can expect that probably Iran has been behind this attack, but we don't have any official reports. Remember that there is an internet blackout where we are now, and we're not really getting all the updates in time.
Okay, thank you for now, Mohammed Val in Tehran there. We have now that clip of President Donald Trump announcing and confirming operations on Iran. Let's listen to it.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own
Israel has
citizens
been
on the
hit.
street as
Israel
they
has
protest.
been hit.
It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration,
I don't want to hear this guy.
that this terrorist
His voice is annoying the shit out of me.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm extremely frustrated as somebody who dedicated so much time, and energy to Trump. This is just my perspective.
Israel has been hit.
That's planes or other kind of air defense systems. That's what we have seen in previous rounds of this conflict. We saw that back in not last year when the Jordanians didn't launch their planes, but in the one before that, in 2024, Jordan did send up its air force to shoot down Iranian rockets and missiles that were coming over the skies of Jordan.
All right, Rory, thank you for now. We'll come back to you as the story develops, of course. Meanwhile, the U.S. ambassador to Israel has issued a statement praising the attacks on Iran. In a post on X, Mike Huckabee wrote, "Thank you, President of the United States, for strong American leadership to stop the killing and threats to Americans for the past 47 years. He says you gave them many chances to do it peacefully, and they said no. Even as I sit in the bullseye of it, I am grateful for a strong president and a strong America." Let's bring in our diplomatic editor, James Space, for more on this. The case for war. The Americans say, and President Trump also said, that Iran refused diplomacy. This is not true.
No, it's not true. And he said that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Well, Iran says they've never wanted a nuclear weapon. And at any stage, they want their peaceful right to enrichment. And we have this new information coming from the Omani foreign minister, someone who's been the broker of the recent talks, the facilitator of the most recent talks that took place in Geneva and all the previous rounds. And he's saying there was a big breakthrough in the last few hours. And that is that Iran had agreed not to keep a stockpile.
Israel has been hit. Israel has been hit.
Used for a bomb. So, I think those sort of arguments coming as you see this attack launched by the United States, I think it raised all sorts of questions. I think the American people have not been prepared for war, but I think there are also
even though we saw this huge U.S. military build-up in the region, surely they must have anticipated that something was going to be happening. I mean, would they have sent out this armada, as President Trump called it, without doing anything?
But there weren't the debates on Capitol Hill that there were when there was previously a very big war, and the equivalent, the last time there was anything that big was 2003, and that's when the Americans, as you know, invaded Afghanistan in 2001, and literally.
This time around, we were in the midst of negotiations when they engaged in war. This time around, in the midst of negotiations, they engaged in death and destruction and murder through a blitzkrieg attack again. And we just heard that the negotiations were making progress. We saw that the Omani mediator went to the United States and spoke on television and said that significant progress has been made. So the Israeli regime does not want progress, nor does the Epstein class in the United States and across the Western world. They want war, they want death and destruction, and apparently they're the ones who own the United States. I think everyone knows that they're lying. This was not preemptive. There was no plan for war. It's always the Israeli regime that attacks. They bomb Lebanon, murder people, and say it's preemptive. They kill people in Gaza and say it's preemptive. They murder people in the West Bank and say that they're protecting themselves. It's always the Israeli excuse, and the Western media will repeat it. Just like when they murder women and children in Tehran, when they slaughter people across the country here, Western media, legacy media, will call it precision strikes with great intelligence, but all we see is death and destruction on the streets of Tehran. During the last war, one of the two missiles struck one of the most important squares in Tehran, slaughtering huge numbers of people. There was no military base anywhere nearby. So to call it preemptive is basically a way to tell the Western media what the narrative is. But in reality, this is just pure aggression. Trump is bound to the Epstein class, and therefore Iran is prepared for war. And as we all know, if there is war, then there will be no more oil and gas from this region. And that will lead to an economic crisis. We are already at war with the Israeli regime. And Iran will strike very, very hard. And we saw what...
The United States is now the biggest oil and gas producer in the world, even surpassing Saudi Arabia. So a blockade on oil from this region will lead to a spike in oil prices, and it will also result in the United States making money hand over fist. You guys see the grift?
What happened last time during the 12-day war? It was the Israeli regime that had to come begging for a ceasefire. But if the United States gets involved, then it's war with the United States, and Iran will do everything necessary, and by any means necessary, it will defend itself and make sure that the aggression is defeated.
Well done, Professor Morandi. Well said, sir.
Yeah, they launched. They have launched from Iraq. I've seen it on quite a few different sources. So yeah, you're quite right on that. I've just tweeted some out. I can't remember what I tweeted out. So what if you guys want to get it? Just post it and that's and explain it. So.
All right, let's throw back to this class.
Y fíjense la diferencia porque en el periodo de Calderón, ¿cómo se llamó aquel operativo? Rápido y Furioso. Que nunca hubo responsables, por cierto, ni de Estados Unidos ni de
By the
aquí.
way, not from the US side or from ours. Weapons entered Mexico from the United States, supposedly fitted with chips to track where they would end up. Just imagine what actually happened. Criminal groups received them, removed the chips, and used the weapons. Duh. But who promptly letting them in? The government. Just imagine, the government. President Lopez Obrador, on the contrary, filed 2 complaints in the United States over the flow of weapons into Mexico, targeting manufacturers and sellers. In our understanding with the United States, one of the central points is that they reduce the flow of weapons into Mexico. Weapons that are, many of these weapons are for exclusive use of the army of the United States. So if they want to help us, there are many ways they can help us. One of them is stopping the flow of weapons from the United States into Mexico. These high caliber weapons, rocket launchers, they come from over there. Rocket launchers? Holy shit. So a central element is reducing the flow of weapons from the United States into Mexico. There are other ways, intelligence, investigation, and strong collaboration. They handle their side and we handle ours. And if they have any information about activity in Mexico, it gets handed over to Mexican authorities. So that is the way we are cooperating. But the most important thing will be, just as we stop the fentanyl going into the United States, that they reduce the weapons coming into Mexico. Okay, that's Mexico. Let's focus on Israel. Is Israel getting hit? Sirens across Israel. World War III is trending. No, let's see Israel.
Is on to the next phase. But what happens is if you fail to achieve the results you want, those resources don't get reallocated, they get reinforced. And so we start taking resources that should be doing this over here, we have to pull them away. This happened during Desert Storm. When we thought we were going to interdict Iraqi Scud missiles in the West, we put a whole bunch of F-15 squadrons up front on that problem set, and we failed. And the Iraqis kept launching against Israel. So now those F-15s, which were supposed to be moving and carrying out critical strikes here, had to remain and get reinforced. And we diverted resources from the rest of the conflict to move on a new war that was developing. This is what's happening right now. Just telling you, I can tell you what's happening in CENTCOM right now. Guys are calling up going, we didn't achieve phase 1 results. And they go, well, we got to reinforce. Where are we going to get those? Well, we're going to have to degrade our planned attack on this, and have to bring those resources here, and now the intelligence, because this is all.
He froze up.
Are we back?
This is like.
Yeah, we're back. We are, while you dropped, we are getting reports. As you said, the Houthis will join. Well, we have reports now of al-Nusra sending missiles from Yemen, obviously toward Israel. We also have reports from multiple sources that there's a hit in Tel Aviv. You talked about this, make comparisons to the war in Iraq. What weapons do you think the Iran will use? Because we've had reports before this war started that Iran was buying a lot of attack helicopters from Russia. Not sure if you've seen this. Not sure what the purpose of these would be. And is there any other new weaponry that Iran would have purchased from China and Russia that they didn't have back in the 12-day war? So what would be different now from the 12-day war that we saw? And also if you can make more comparisons to what we saw in Iraq, so people that were following that war could see the similarities here.
Well, we talk about these helicopters. What would the helicopters be useful for? Not to attack Israel, to attack outside of Iran's borders. Well, again, we'll just rely on history. During the Gulf War, we, the United States, deployed special operations forces into Western Iraq together with the British. These are from what we colloquially called Delta Force. And there was a battle that took place around February 14th, St. Valentine's Day, where a half squadron reinforced troop was dug in, and the Iraqis started coming after them with helicopters. And they, the helicopters were online, they were moving forward, deploying troops, moving forward. And this was very problematic for the Delta guys being boxed in. And so they had to start maneuvering out of this. And then F-15s came in, and there's a famous case where the guy dropped a 2,000-pound bomb, and it hit one of the Iraqi helicopters and blew it up. And then that broke the Iraqi helicopter assault. They had to disperse and run for their lives, and the Delta guys were able to escape. Literally, I think that's what these new helicopters are for. If you're planning, if I'm the Iraqi and the Iranians, and I'm saying, how are they going to suppress my missiles? Because you have to think like that. You have to say, what is the enemy going to do? You have to assume there's going to be special operations forces operating on the ground inside Iran. So you want the most capable helicopters out there hunting these forces down. And I think that's what these advanced Russian helicopters are designed to do, to work with.
They've already prepped for ground forces, at least special ops being on the ground in Iran. So that's what Iran was prepping for.
I believe so. I believe so. It'd be stupid not to. It'd be very stupid not to. So we may not, see the effectiveness of this. Again, if you study the history of American Delta Force operation in Western Iraq, with all due respect to the Delta guys, every time you inserted, you were running for your lives because you were detected the moment you sat down, and you're running. You were never able to carry out the campaign you wanted to carry out. The same thing with the British. The SAS went in there, and within a week and a half, they basically had lost contact with the bulk of the SAS troops deployed. And were feared that most of them were dead or captured. Turns out that they were just running. And we had the element of surprise. If we put special operations forces on the ground, I think they're going to spend far more time running than they are going to be hunting. But that's just what history suggests. And the Iranians should have been preparing for this up front. Now. Go ahead.
I was going to ask about Iran was talking about targeting aircraft carriers. Do you think they could even sink an aircraft carrier, or that's wishful thinking? How strong are the defenses of these aircraft carriers? Now, my thoughts would be wishful thinking. The US would not put the aircraft carriers in a position where they could be sunk. But if I'm wrong, let me know.
Well, obviously we don't want to put a carrier in a position where it's sunk. But Mario, let me just remind you that I forget the name of the carrier, but there was a carrier operating in the operations against in the Red Sea against Yemen that had to carry out an emergency evasive maneuver so extreme that it threw an F-18 off board. You remember that? An American aircraft carrier was in the process of carrying out launch and recovery operations, and because of a Yemeni attack, had to carry out.
The Houthis were able to do this. The Houthis were able to
do this. And the aircraft carrier had to carry out an emergency evasive maneuver that was so extreme that it threw an F-18 off the deck of the ship. So clearly, our aircraft carriers can be put at risk. If you hit an aircraft carrier, you can sink an aircraft carrier, depending on what you hit. Now, I saw you put a post up there about about CIS, close-in fire suppression system. Mario, it's been around forever. It doesn't work. All right. It's never been fully tested, but it doesn't work in hypersonics. And so if the Iranians were able to get hypersonic maneuvering warhead in the vicinity of an aircraft carrier, it will hit the aircraft carrier. So this is why we put such emphasis on suppression up front. What we need to do is deny the Iranians the ability to salvo launch missiles. If you run a leaker at the United States, we're going to shoot it down. There's no doubt about that. So no matter how advanced, you get that most advanced Chinese weapon you want. You fire one, we're going to shoot it down. We have overlaid air defense capabilities. We're going to get it. What you need to do is you have to fire an opening salvo that's designed to overwhelm our air defense capabilities. You start getting the radars to lock in. There's only so many targets that can track at once. Start to communicate. Start deciding which munitions to fire, position themselves. So now you start getting that chaotic factor in there where we're locked into a given threat. Then you up the threat. Alter it, force the radar to start shifting targets. Now you get confusion in the system, and then you come in with your knockout punch, hypersonic maneuvering, and we won't be able to adjust to it, and they'll hit ships. But this requires the Iranians to be able to carry out this kind of sequenced attack. And our job, the Air Wing Commander's job, is to disrupt that. We're not going to let them be able to carry out these sequenced attacks. The problem is, we're going to run out of ammunition. That's the problem. That's the fatal flaw in this entire plan. Because there will come a point where the aircraft we start sending over won't have bombs to drop. And when that happens, the Iranians come out of the hunker down position they're in, and they begin the sequenced attacks. And that's where we're going to try. I don't think we're going to lose the carrier up front. But when this war drags on and we start running out of ammunition, say in about a week and a half, that's where the window of vulnerability comes in. And that's what I believe the generals are telling the president, that we can, if we have unlimited ammunition, we can win this war. We
were talking about American ammunition being depleted a year ago now, Scott, with the Ukraine war and all the support there. And now we're talking about a new massive war with Iran. While you're speaking as well, the Houthis announced they will begin attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Is there certain... I know it sounds like a question.
Go!
Red lines. On every war, there's if you do this, we do that. So is there anything specific that if the US crosses that line, we might see Iran strike Gulf nations, Dubai, the UAE, Saudi, oil fields, beyond military bases, beyond US military bases. So I feel like there's an escalation on the Iranian side where we strike Israel, the Houthis attack ships in the Red Sea, then we start striking US bases. Then we might start striking Gulf interests in the region, including oil fields. And then the last line that Iran could cross, the biggest escalation they could achieve is trying to close the Strait of Hormuz, which would cripple their economy, but also cripple the global economy. So is there a certain tic-tac that we could see in this war?
Again, I have to go with what the Iranians said. This isn't going to be a sequential escalation. This is an existential fight again now. All the statements coming from the Ministry of Defense is, it's on. The game is on. And so therefore now the Iranians will operate on their timetable. They have a plan. That's what other, no plan.
Let's come back to that. So the Pentagon says the strikes on Iran were named Operation Epic Fury. The U.S. Department of War has announced that Operation Epic Fury. Very disgusting. All right, the Iranian military is making an announcement. Let's see what they say. So Reza Pahlavi, the eldest son of the last Shah of Iran, is taking a stance. He has recently been very diplomatically active, particularly in the Munich conference. But his legitimacy within the population is not automatic.
آن است نه کشور و ملت بزرگ ایران. اما با وجود رسیدن این کمک پیروزی نهایی همچنان به دست ما
So this is Reza Pahlavi making an announcement to the people, trying to stir them up to get them in the streets.
که در این آخرین نبرد کار را تمام خواهیم کرد. زمان بازگشت به خیابان‌ها نزدیک است. اکنون که جمهوری اسلامی در حال فروپاشی است، پیام من به نیروهای نظامی، انتظامی و امنیتی.
Move on.
לפני שעה קלה יצאו ישראל וארצות הברית למערכה משותפת. מבצע שאגת הערים.
Israeli PM Netanyahu confirms that the US and Israel have jointly launched an operation on Iran.
בשעה זו תוקף צה"ל מטרות של משטר הדיכוי.
I don't want to hear him.
was Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
He just screams evil. Everything about him. He looks evil. He says evil things. He is evil. He's got his sins written on his face.
And hold on now, the cause of the fire is unknown. Initial Israel reports indicate an object fell from the sky. That unknown object came from Iran. This is the first fire in Israel. Iran has launched missiles against Israel. The first hits are starting. And the Houthi movement announces that the closure of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the Red Sea and warns that they will target U.S. and Israeli ships. So the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the Red Sea is closed. That was an hour ago.
Went into that first strike package. I'm learning all this military lingo. Might as well try it on. Yeah, what was going into that first strike package?
A pedophile wants to Iraq Iran so that the people will stop asking for the Epstein files.
Now, we're also hearing from Iran's allies in the region, including the Houthis in Yemen.
Let's go back to what Al Jazeera is saying.
The public for a war. There has been no preparation for this. Yes, those of us that watch Al Jazeera, our viewers, will be aware of that big build-up. You watch American TV, lots of the American public will not be aware of this. On Capitol Hill, they will say, many will say this is illegal because Congress is supposed to authorize something as big as this. And let's not forget the little thing of international law. You need a Security Council resolution to do something like this, and they don't have that. And,
so the
and
case
Israel
for
saying
war.
it's a preemptive action. I mean, there was no imminent attack coming from Iran.
So
there's
the
no
case
legal
for war the Americans and the Israelis make is not a very convincing one. Did they even need to convince anyone of this? It seemed that they had their minds made up about going after
They
Iran.
absolutely had their minds up, and President Trump's narrative, which I'm sure people who watch his Truth Social and people in his MAGA base will agree with, but Iran refused the negotiations. No, Iran was involved actively in the negotiations. Just a few hours ago, you listened to the Omani foreign minister, they had new technical talks on Monday, just a few hours away, and full talks coming up in a week's time. So the process was underway, and this is the second time it has happened like that. You'll remember that last time in June, there was active diplomacy going on, and I think there'll be some questioning whether really you can treat the US when it's doing diplomacy as a good faith actor anymore.
Right. We've just had a statement from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, James. Netanyahu made an address to the nation saying, well, it's a statement in fact, saying Israel and the US launched an operation to remove the existential threat posed by the terror regime in Iran. Our joint action will create the conditions for the brave Iranian people to take their fate into their own hands, he says, in the coming days during Operation Roar of the Lion. That's what this operation is being labeled. He says we'll all be required to show patience and resilience. Ali Hashem, what do we need to make of this? The case for war made by President Trump, this statement from the Israeli Prime Minister, how will the Iranians be receiving this?
Well, actually, we've been hearing from different officials in the United States with respect to the Iranian build-up. So Steve Witkoff was mentioning Iran
Getting a little tired.
being a week away from building a new nuclear weapon or elements of
Which
a
is
nuclear
quite
weapon.
it contradicts what they said back in
June.
after June, where they said they'd obliterated, those were his words, Iran's business.
Also, the claims that Iran can launch missiles towards Europe and the United States, and we know that the cap of the Iranian missiles is 2,000 kilometers. So, I mean, a lot of claims, it's kind of building a narrative. This narrative was built, and yesterday we were just discussing this now. When the Omani foreign minister went to television, it was clear that he was desperate. He knew that
Galilee is hit.
He was trying his last bullet, maybe, and it didn't work.
Yeah. The Omanis are usually very discreet in diplomacy. So for the foreign minister to go on American television
that was a public complete.
James.
I think the other thing that's interesting in that statement from Netanyahu is again an appeal to the Iranian people. And you heard that from President Trump. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny. Do not let it pass. They clearly think there's a phase 2 to this operation.
We played this earlier, but there was no exclusive on this video.
From the ground in Tehran and cities around Iran, but are Iranians going to rise up after?
So the strategy, it's almost as if the strategy is hope. They're pinning their hopes also a lot on the Iranian people.
Building on the momentum of the last protests.
Is that momentum still there?
Well, there are new demonstrations and protests that started at the universities, but when there is a war, things will differ. There is a complete, let me say, split over here between even those who want the system to collapse. Of course, there are
Iranian missiles are now in the sky.
If they want to bring down the system,
without help.
Well, the idea is that this is how the debate has been going on in Iran for years. And can push the system towards reforms and changes. However, when things come from outside, it's different. And in general, the Iranian people view, not really stereotype everyone. And you cannot just say,
It's not a monolithic.
at the end.
I'm in Israel. We just got the sirens and went down to the shelters. I guess it started. Hi everyone, I'm in Israel. We just got the sirens and went down to the shelters. I guess it started. I will keep you updated. Hi everyone, I'm in Israel. We just got the sirens and went down to the shelter.
Just do it! Don't dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Do it! Do it! Just do it! Don't dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Do it! Just do it! Don't dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Just do it! Don't
Gotta retweet that shit.
Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Do it! Just do it! Don't dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Just do it! Don't
The United States are the demons that we were warned about when we were children. We stand with Iran. This is what the MAGA movement? No, this is not MAGA.
Bro, those are the renters who owe him back rent. Look at him, running upright like that, and he's just chilling with the ledger like it's normal. They're hauling him down the highway, man. This is wild. Bro, those are the renters who owe him back rent. Look at him, running upright like that, and he's just
Trump, in October 22nd, 2012, he tweeted out, "Don't let Obama play the Iran card in order to start a war in order to get elected. Be careful, Republicans." What happened to this guy? Trump at 80 years old would rather drag America into World War III than have his Epstein blackmail footage released. Fuck Israel and fuck all their supporters. I agree. The West is pure and absolute evil.
Been using the weapon of AI that we have been given, and he has been creating newscasts where it would be like if you tune into the news one day and all of a sudden they were just like telling the truth.
Yeah, I remember.
And they are hilarious, but they're funny because they're so true, and I want to yield some time to you, brother. Thank you so much for your work. Jake G TV.
All right, give it up for Stu.
I don't want to watch that. What's this?
Did America shoot him? Why?
Why did we shoot your dad?
Yes, why?
I didn't shoot your dad.
America shoot why?
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 Bad guy. America. Some American soldiers are very bad.
Yes.
Very bad.
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Why I'm sorry? My father did. Father me.
Do you hate Americans?
What?
Do you want to shoot me?
No.
No?
Father me. Did America shoot him? Why?
Why did we shoot your dad?
Yes, why?
I didn't shoot your dad.
America shoot
The mainstream news is reporting that Israel has been hit.
Bad guy. America. Some American soldiers are very bad.
Are being shut down.
Very bad.
Trump that he can be blackmailed into turning from a no new wars president into a many new wars president. The United States and Israel have bombed Iran. The Ministry of Intelligence, the Ministry of Defense, Khamenei himself, the Atomic Energy Agency and the Prime Minister's office already supposedly targeted in broad daylight. It shows that the perceptions in Washington and Tel Aviv are that Iran poses no deterrence. It has no deterrent, despite it threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz and bomb U.S. bases in the region. We're, of course, all waiting for any retaliation, but clearly this demonstrates the unity between those hawks in Washington who have persuaded Trump to even go on television or his Truth Social explaining that Americans will die, possibly, as he says he will annihilate the Iranian Navy and parts of the Iranian armed forces, as he calls for a coup. The first thing to note is that the Global South and the BRICS movement, they have demonstrated time and time again failure in the face of American violence. From Venezuela, where the leader, Maduro, and his First Lady, Celia Flores, could just be kidnapped. From Beirut, where Hezbollah said it will fight the Israeli enemy and was all but destroyed. It's clear now that people underestimate in the global south the intentions of the United States despite all the rhetoric. The fact that broad daylight could be the scene of these attacks from the United States and Israel shows just how the forces of neocolonialism, imperialism, and neoconservatism, how powerful those forces are. The UAE condemned the American ambassador in Israel, Mike Huckabee, for his designs, messianic designs, not only on all of Palestine, but on parts of Saudi Arabia and Iraq as well, let alone Jordan and the entire West Bank, the destruction of huge swathes of the Arab world. What will now happen will be the bluff has been called and the response will be judged. If there is no retaliation, the United States will feel, those elements of power in the United States will feel unbeatable. As for the Christian Zionists and those more messianic settler class within Israel, they will feel they don't care about any possible end of times and end of the world.
Well said. Let me retweet that.
How powerful are the
Just about everybody. Who else hopes Iran turns Israel into dust? I do. Everyone does. Hey. All right. Breaking impacts reported in Holon, Israel.
Minimum autobus in Extremalco. Minimum autobus in Extremalco. Extreme autobus in Extremalco.
That's the bus station we showed earlier from a different angle. Why would they even care about bombing a bus station or bombing some buses? Stupid target.
Go into a house unless they're invited. They tell you, what's going on ahead of time.
A Houthi military official. The leader has decided, we will intervene on behalf of Iran. The battlefield will speak in the coming hours. So the Houthis are in the mix, as I reported about 45 minutes ago.
Traveling outside of Israel because this is our mission. Now, symbolically, next week, the Jewish people are going to celebrate the holiday of Purim, where the Jewish people manipulated the Persian regime. And I'm sure that we're going to hear more about it. And Netanyahu does what he is doing best in the last 25 and more years, to brainwash people that there is no option other than perpetuate the war against our neighbors. And he will change the Middle East, and he can manipulate the President of the United States. And to remind you, Polly, he succeeded to convince Trump in his first term in the White House to pull out of a good, reasonable agreement with Iran.
Yeah, and it was just last week also that Netanyahu traveled to Washington, presumably to convince President Trump once again to enter into this war with Israel. Mohanad Seloum, let me come to you next now. The goals of this U.S.-Israeli operation have been laid bare by both Prime Minister Netanyahu in his statement there and also President Trump in his statement. It is regime change in Iran.
It is, it's very clear.
Right, and so how do you see it playing out?
Well, it seems that they're going for the leadership. So there is a decapitation process going on as we speak since the morning. We don't know how many of the leadership have already been decapitated.
U.S. bases in Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Kuwait are under Iranian missile attack. I have a friend who has a daughter who's stationed in Kuwait.
Well, these are unconfirmed reports. These people are in hiding at the moment, and there is no official confirmation. And
this is a map of all the bases being bombed right now. U.S. bases are being bombed.
Iranians have already predicted this, probably they have simulated this over and over and over since last June, so they know what they are going to do, and probably they have delegated leadership to names that we don't even know about, just to respond to the Iranian U.S. attack. But what we've seen here is a U.S.-led operation for regime change in Iran. It's not only about Israel.
Twitter has the most accurate breaking news than any other platform. So 15 seconds ago, it's been reported that this one is being bombed right now. U.S. bases in Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Kuwait are under Iranian missile attacks.
And Netanyahu went himself to D.C. trying to convince President Trump to do that. But it is the U.S. doing this. Israel on its own cannot change the regime of Iran. It is the U.S.
Iran called on its citizens to leave those same countries I just mentioned 7 hours ago. Wow.
This armada of carriers, F-22s, everything, and they are attacking Iran as we speak.
Right, but what imminent threat did Iran pose to the U.S.?
No, this is not a formal declaration of war from all sides yet, but yes, open combat has started. The U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iranian military nuclear sites. No, that's not
the missiles, the
rocket
nuclear, and the ballistic system, all these together, they
anyway, I'll just read what Rocket reported. The U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iranian military nuclear sites today. Iran is retaliating with missiles and drones. It's near the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. Explosions, sirens, shelter alerts issued. Trump called it major combat operation. Situation is rapidly escalating.
Nuclear systems, and they have been going on. With different U.S.
Bahrain hosts the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet headquarters in Manama.
But it never happened. Now the U.S. is reaching the last limit, especially with the zero game, if you like, ideas of President Trump, saying that you have to give up on everything. We will not accept anything below that. And Iran is saying that it's more dangerous to give up everything than going to war. So the Iranians went for war because it's less costly for them than giving up on their nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles.
Akiva Eldar in Tel Aviv, what about the costs for Israel? In the last few years, Israel has been engaged in a war in Gaza, a genocide in Gaza. It's been engaged in a war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, twice now against Iran. Isn't this costing Israel and the Israelis as well?
Yeah, it costs not only financially, but it's billions of dollars. Maybe Netanyahu is hoping that his friend over the White House is not very good to spend money on other countries or other people. Maybe
all right, so this is a map of the area.
Able to convince
this is Iran.
To pay those bills. But more than that, you look at the Israeli
and they are currently bombing Bahrain.
He doesn't see any light
over here.
at the end of the tunnel. The only tunnels we know is the tunnels in Gaza that we destroyed. People are stuck at home. They are not able. Israel is becoming an isolated island more than before. And I think it's a psychological effect. At least one-third of the Israelis, according to research that has been done in the United States, are in a kind of post-trauma.
So the United States has planes stored over here in Bahrain, so they're now getting bombed.
people are going with their heads down. They don't see any end to this. And Netanyahu, as we know, his hero is Winston Churchill. What he's promising us is just blood, sweat, and tears. And
Abu Dhabi?
I think that
Why is Abu Dhabi trending? Holy shit.
can deal with it. But what is happening is that in Israel,
Explosions are now reported in Kuwait and Abu Dhabi.
Good people are leaving the country. But I want
Let's go, Iran!
the message of Netanyahu that he must put order in the new Middle East. What we see is that when the Palestinian Authority and the Peace Council
Explosions are also reported in Kuwait and Abu Dhabi.
is doing everything to undermine. And if
Iranian missiles are being intercepted over Abu Dhabi right now.
maybe it would isolate.
I wonder if Dominic Smith is still in Abu Dhabi. If he'll be lucky enough to catch a missile in his.
Okay, just to
Let me
bring
not
our
say
viewers
that.
up to speed with what's been happening, if they're just joining us now, it's just past 9 GMT. And
The
our
US naval
continuing
base
coverage
on
of this
Bahrain
breaking
is
news
on
story.
fire.
The US and Israel are attacking Iran just days after representatives from Tehran and Washington held indirect negotiations in Geneva. Explosions have been heard in northern Israel as the military there
All right,
intercepts incoming Iranian
the
missiles.
news is
And
still
in just the
reporting
last
that,
few
that
minutes,
Israel got hit, but it's
Qatar's
not only
defense
Israel is
ministry
getting
saying
hit.
that an Iranian
Everybody's getting hit! Let's go, Iran!
System. And there are also reports of explosions in Bahrain. Now, the attacks in Iran, the Iranian
Let's
capital,
go!
are part of what the United States are calling Operation
Let's take out one of them
Epic Fury,
aircraft carriers.
and they're taking place across
Where is
seas
the Iranian
in
Air
Iran.
Force?
Iran has closed its
Or
airspace
do they wanna-
and
do
cut
they wanna,
mobile phone services. Now, video shows a low-flying fighter jet in the skies over the Iranian capital a short while ago, and Iranians
That's
have
Iranian.
been hearing the sounds of jets and explosions throughout Saturday morning. Aside from Tehran, there have also been attacks in the holy city of Qom, Karaj near the capital, Isfahan
Wow, it's like
in central
it's
Iran,
like Twitter has
Tabriz in the northwest, and
more up-to-date reporting than these news guys.
towards the border with Iraq.
I reported that air
Now,
image
Iran's
like about
paramilitary
half an hour
Revolutionary
ago.
Guard says the country has launched its first wave of retaliatory drone and missile strikes following the attacks on Iran. Again, explosions
Explosions in the
taking
Saudi
place, we
capital.
understand, in Bahrain and here in Qatar.
Yemen has begun
The
attacks
Defense
in the Red
Ministry
Sea.
confirming
Oh my
that
God.
An Iranian missile has been intercepted
Energy
by
facilities
the
are not
Patriot
off the
defense system.
table.
Ali Hashim,
Iranian
what more are you hearing
official.
about these Iranian retaliatory attacks?
Well,
The moment the U.S. Naval HQ in Bahrain gets struck by a missile. So this video that we saw earlier was from Bahrain.
At least 2 barrages.
Let's
Now
go!
we're hearing of the interception over Qatar and in Bahrain. This actually reflects what the Iranians have been saying over the last weeks regarding the retaliation. The attack. But this is just turning this.
Iran ain't no fucking Venezuela. Let's go, baby! Punch back hard. I want to see more of this shit.
Because the countries have good relations with Tehran.
Let's go, Iran.
American
American bases in Kuwait are being struck by Iranian missiles.
After the June war in 2025, so we are seeing more regional.
All right, let me concentrate for a second,
This conflict, and this is
because I don't want
taking
you guys
this
to see what I'm doing.
somewhere very complicated.
Mohanad Saloon, what are your thoughts? What are the risks today of an all-out regional conflict, given what we're seeing, these developments in Iran targeting these U.S. targets in countries that are allies in the region?
The stakes are very high.
Yeah.
I mean, Iran is now, it's confirmed to the Iranian leadership that this is an existential war. This is not a war that would end with a compromise. President Trump himself appealed to the Iranian army. And maybe I note here that the Iranian army was not targeted last June. And this time around, they will be targeting only the IRGC as we speak. So the US and Israel, both of them confirmed that this is an attack for regime change. So the Iranians would respond fiercely if they could, because the US and its allies they probably have predicted this, and probably they have, they have taken measures to prevent that or to minimize the damage, because President Trump said that we might lose some of our soldiers, and that's a cost that we are prepared for.
This is the alarm, by the way, that we all get on our phones here in Doha when there's an urgency. And so the National Emergency Alert System has gone off here in Qatar. The Defense Ministry in Qatar announcing just a short
All right,
while ago
everybody's
that
getting
an
hit.
Iranian
Everybody's
missile has
getting fucking
been
hit.
intercepted here in Qatar, warning citizens basically to take shelter. Let's bring in Alan Fisher in Washington, D.C. Apologies, there's
Why
a
am
bit
I
of
suspended
chaos
from
in the
Twitch?
newsroom, as you can imagine, because this is also happening here in Qatar. Our emergency systems going off here. Alan Fisher in Washington, D.C., Zain Bazravi in Doha, Beirut. We have Zaina Khodar. Can we go to Zain Bazravi first?
Twitch just
Zain, you're in Doha.
Twitch
Tell
just
us
suspended
about
my
the
account
situation here.
for reporting this fucking content.
Well, it certainly is
Let's
tense.
show you
The
that.
hours since this morning have changed the situation dramatically.
Look at this shit.
We just heard those alerts going off. We were standing here, people on their smartphones here on the corniche, tourists still out and about. All of their phones went off at the same time.
Fuck you,
warning
Twitch.
Of the threat of incoming missiles. Now, earlier, an official source in the country Ministry of Defense confirmed to Al Jazeera that an Iranian missile was shot down using Patriot systems. Of course, Patriot defense systems were mobilized in multiple numbers ahead of this invasion or ahead of this attack on Iran by the United States to multiple friendly countries all around the region, and that seems to be taking part in this conflict now, though they are now serving their purpose. Just within an hour of that confirmation by the Defense Ministry, the U.S. Embassy had issued a warning saying missile incoming, imminent missile strikes, duck and cover until further notice, continue to shelter in place. So that warning, followed by this information about the defense, the Patriot defense systems shooting down an incoming missile. The airspace around Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, all of these airspaces have been closed. Since we've been out here, we've seen a few flights in the air in the past hour. Those were perhaps the last flights to come in and out of Doha, perhaps for some time. That U.S. warning, that U.S. Embassy warning, telling people to shelter in place, but also to have food and water supplies, to have a plan to exit. There seems to be this urgency from the U.S. Embassy to suggest that this may be a protracted event.
So yeah, the emergency alert we all got on our phones just a short while ago here in Qatar from the Qatari authorities telling everyone here in Doha to stay away from military installations. As I said, a huge U.S. military base in Doha. Difficult to say what is going to be the scope of Iran's retaliation, isn't it, Zain?
Well, I can tell you from reporting I've done in the past in Iran for years, whenever you speak to officials on the ground, whenever you speak to any analysts, really anyone that is connected to the government or the IRGC or the military establishment or the clerical system of government in any way, they continue to say that everyone around their country are all friendly neighboring countries. They want to maintain friendly ties, but they continue to point out that they all host U.S. bases, and if Iran is attacked, there's been an admittance by a number of analysts and officials that they know that a full-scale U.S. invasion is something that Iran is unlikely to be able to combat strictly because of the asymmetry of military power on the U.S. side. But they say that if the United States is going to decide to change the Iranian landscape, if Iran is going to have its map changed, it will change the map of the region. So what we are worried about now is that Iran will retaliate in the way that it has been promising all along, that if it is attacked, it will attack every U.S. ally in the region. And that is something that they've gone on record to say for years.
Qatar's airspace has been closed. Bahrain's airspace also closed. We are looking on the left-hand side of our screen there of the explosion in Bahrain. And in Qatar, this was the missile that was intercepted earlier. It looks like in Bahrain, there has been some sort of explosion, unclear as to whether this is something that was intercepted or it made impact.
I mean, it is going to take time trying to figure out exactly the details of what is being attacked, what is being hit. There is some concern about the precision of Iranian missiles. There has been concern about these things in the past. But Bahrain is home to the U.S. specifically. Qatar is home to the U.S. Central Command headquarters in the region. So as far as Iran is concerned, with the U.S. and Israel firing the first shot in this latest go-around, everything is now probably fair game.
Huge explosions in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, as well as in Kuwait. As soon as we have those pictures, we will bring them to you. Let's go to Mohammed Val in Tehran now. Mohammed, the Iranian retaliation clearly has begun. What are the Iranians saying there?
Well, we have just heard from the Supreme National Security Council saying that they have a major announcement to make shortly. But the Iranian people are still waiting for that statement because apparently there will be some details there about the operations that have been launched this morning. The IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, has confirmed that it has launched a wave of attacks against Israel today. That's a mixture of drone attacks and also missiles. So that has been confirmed. Also announcements from other government institutions, including the Ministry of Interior, asking people to stay calm, to avoid going out, and to get their information only from official sources. So we have an atmosphere of war in Tehran and across the country. Let me tell you about the cities also that we have reports that have been attacked according to the information we have. We have Kunar city, we have Bushar province, and we have Kermanshah in the west, we have south of Tehran, we have Isfahan, that's at the center of the country, and we have Bandar Abbas. Of course, this also has been attacked. So it's a wide range of attacks that have been confirmed by Iranian semi-official sources. So it's a full mode, a war in full mode now, and also there are information about the air defense systems in the middle of Tehran being in full action mode. So Iran is not holding punches this time around. They have been promising this. They have been saying that this time it's going to be different, that their reaction is not going to be anything like what we have seen before. And also you have, of course, signs of that in Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, they have started to target even countries that have military bases in them.
Indeed, Iranian officials, as you say, Mohammed, saying that all US bases and interests are within Iran's reach. And Bahrain confirming now that there were attacks inside its territory. The US base in Bahrain, the Navy's Fifth Fleet, has been targeted by a missile attack. Here in Qatar, the Defense Ministry saying that a missile was intercepted. There have also been explosions heard in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE, as well as Kuwait. So clearly a wide-ranging retaliatory response from the Iranians. They have made preparations for this, as you said. What about the Iranian people, Mohammed? You described earlier scenes of chaos and perhaps panic in Iran. What sort of preparations will people have made in anticipation for this conflict?
Well, we told you about the traffic jams. That situation is still continuous behind it. It's getting even worse. It's getting worse now. And the Iranian people, of course, because of this semi-total internet blackout, we are not able to access all the reactions by the people. But we know that they have been bracing for this for some time now. Iranians, as you know, I mean, we have those Iranians who might be expecting or even hoping for some kind of action to change the regime. But also we have millions of Iranians who are against this war on their country, and right now what they have is to follow the orders of their government. The government has asked them to stay calm, to stay home, and to avoid going out in the streets. We know, as I told you, there is this mixed reaction among Iranians, among the opposition, and those people who have been protesting against the government. Probably they are wishing for some kind of safe change of government in the country without themselves being hurt, which is a very, of course, difficult situation. When your country is under attack, you wish you are personally safe, your family is safe, but you're also wishing for a major change in the change of regime. So that's a contradictory feeling there in the country. People are not feeling safe. Anybody might be targeted here, anybody might be a victim of this war. But also, as I said, those who are still wishing that regime can change during this war.
Okay, for now we'll leave it there. We'll come back to you, of course, for all the latest there from Iran. Let's check in with Noor Day now. Noor, what's been happening in Israel?
Well, quite a few updates for you following. Let's start with Israel. Sirens have been going off in the north, in the center, and in the southern parts of Israel, as well as over illegal settlements across the occupied West Bank. The latest sirens are in Akka and in the Galilee area. We've also seen sirens in the Beersheba and the Mona areas. There have been several loud explosions heard, most likely of interceptions. Some were clearly heard here in Ramallah as well, targeting possibly the missiles that were headed towards in the direction of Jerusalem or Tel Aviv and the coastal area in Israel. The security sources have been quoted by Israeli media saying that the first attack strikes by Israel and the U.S. aimed at assassinating as many top leaders of the Iranian government and leadership structure as possible. Of course, we have no confirmation that such assassinations took place, but it is clear from the rhetoric and from the tone of the messaging of the Israeli Prime Minister that this is not a strike. This is an operation aimed at changing the government, toppling the government in Tehran. The Israeli Prime Minister very careful to address the Iranian public, although in Hebrew, which they do not speak, saying that they are not the target. In the meantime, of course, the Israeli government has also taken steps here in the occupied West Bank, closing the more than 1,000 Israeli checkpoints and roadblocks in the occupied territory, making movement between cities very difficult, if not at all impossible. People rushing to the supermarkets and the gas stations, a lot of traffic jams reported across the occupied West Bank, with the Palestinian Authority trying to give some comfort to residents here, saying that there are food reserves that would be sufficient for up to 6 months. But really, there is a lot of concern here. There are no public shelters in the occupied West Bank. No construction codes would allow it. The construction codes imposed, of course, by the Israeli occupation. So people here are unnerved. They understand that this is a different kind of confrontation, and they're monitoring very closely, Israelis and Palestinians alike, the developments that are happening across the region. This is not just an Israel-Iran confrontation anymore. Very loud explosion that I can hear in the background. I'm not sure the camera can catch it, but more interceptions heard. One more, again, over the skies. One more in the Ramallah area. So certainly this is an ongoing situation with missiles reaching volley after another from Iran, targeting Israel in retaliation for its initial strikes in the early hours of the morning.
As you said, Noor, a lot of concern, not just in Israel, Palestine, and Iran, but across the region, with Iran now starting to retaliate. The Iranians targeting the 5th U.S. fleet in Bahrain, missiles intercepted here in Qatar, but also explosions heard in the UAE announcing the closure of its airspace. You talked about the Israeli Prime Minister earlier and his message to the Israeli people, but also to the Iranians. Let's listen to what Benjamin Netanyahu said.
Israel and the United States launched a joint campaign, Operation Lion's Roar. The objective of the operation is to put an end to the threat from the Ayatollah regime in Iran. At this time, the IDF is attacking targets of the oppressive regime, facilities of the Revolutionary Guard, along with the United States military, targeting ballistic missile sites that threaten both Israel and U.S. forces. This operation will continue as long as necessary. In recent months, the tyrants in Iran have been plotting to rebuild their nuclear and missile capabilities and to bury them underground, where we won't be able to strike them. If we don't stop them now, they will become invulnerable. To that end, the representatives in negotiations are trying to buy time, attempting to buy time in fruitless and deceitful negotiations with our American friends. Whoever lays down their weapons, including among the regime forces, will ensure their safety and secure their future. The Iranian people in all their diversity, Persians, Kurds, Azeris, Baluch, Abkhazians, and all other citizens of this wonderful nation, this is your opportunity to establish a new and free Iran. Take your destiny into your own hands.
Let's speak to Gideon Levy now, columnist at Haaretz newspaper. He's in Tel Aviv. Gideon, how big of a risk is Netanyahu taking by launching this operation on Iran?
It's not only Netanyahu. Israel is taking a hell of a risk. And as usual, in the beginning, everyone supports any military operation by
Okay,
Israel.
sorry to interrupt you, Gideon. We've just had another alert here in Qatar from the authorities telling citizens to take shelter and to stay away from military installations because of possibly an incoming Iranian missile. Qatar is home, of course, to the largest U.S. military base in the region, and the National Emergency Alert System going off again, asking citizens to take shelter and stay away from military installations. Continue, Gideon. Apologies. We will have a lot of interruptions, I assume, in the next few hours here as we continue to follow the Iranian retaliation to the attack on its territory. Go ahead, Gideon.
First of all, solidarity with you all in Qatar. We are facing almost the same here. We are now going to shelter here. So we continue later at approach to the shelter. Sorry.
Okay. Please, we'll come back to you. Take shelter.
Sure.
Take shelter. We will come back to you when it's safe. Rory Challenge now in Amman, Jordan. What's happening in your neck of the woods?
Well, we've heard in the last few minutes at least 3 fairly sizable booms in the skies over Amman. We have heard over the past 2 hours or so the sound of jet planes up in the skies, and what to my ears at least sound like air defence being operated. Now, this is in line with what we're being told by the Jordanian military, which is that there are Royal Jordanian Air Force jets that have been mobilised. Now, they've said that these are routine patrols, reconnaissance patrols, but given that we know that Iranian missiles have been launched against Israel, drones as well, and Iranian missiles have been hitting other parts of the region, you can only assume that these jets are up there basically trying to patrol the Jordanian skies and make sure they're safe. Jordan is in a bit of a predicament here, as are many other regional countries, because as we have been talking about over the last hour or two of coverage, they are broadly sympathetic to many parts of Iran's plight, but they are also allies with the United States, and they are hosting in many parts of this region large US facilities, and the Jordanians have one as well, the Wafak Salti Air Base, which is about 100 kilometers east of Amman, the capital. In recent days, there have been 60 to 70 US planes there. That's triple the kind of normal amount of US planes. And the Iranians have been saying specifically that in the case of any US Israeli attack against Iran, that it would become a regional conflict, that the wider region of the Middle East and the Gulf would be drawn into this. And that's what we are seeing playing out at the moment with these attacks on Bahrain, and with Jordanian Air Force scrambling to patrol and protect the skies of Jordan at the moment. Now, many countries in the region, Jordan being one of them, have said that they would not, specifically, they have said that they would not take part, they would not facilitate any US attack on Iran. Now, that was a message to Iran specifically to say, look, don't retaliate. But the Iranians have said several times that any US facility in the region is basically, as Zayn put it a short while ago, fair game.
And we're hearing now from the Iranian Foreign Ministry in the last few minutes releasing a statement saying this renewed military aggression comes while Iran and the US were in the midst of a diplomatic process. The Iranian Foreign Ministry saying that Israel and the US attacked a range of military and defense targets as well as civilian infrastructure across various cities in Iran. And they're saying that the main target of the first US-Israeli attack were these targets, including government buildings in Tehran. We've heard from our sources on the ground that the Supreme Leader is safe, hasn't been injured, and that the President of Iran as well is safe. In the last hour, Iran's response has begun across the region. There have been explosions reported in Bahrain, the 5th U.S. fleet in Bahrain, the Navy fleet targeted in that country. Interceptions here in Qatar of a missile launched by Iran. Qatar, home to the largest U.S. military base in the region, Al Udeid. There have also been explosions reported in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates, as well as Kuwait. With us analyzing these fast-moving developments, Mohammad Seloun from the Qatar Doha Institute of Graduate Studies and Al Jazeera's Ali Hashim, of course, who's covered the region extensively for us. On the Iranian Foreign Ministry statements, they've come out very quickly to say which areas in Iran have been targeted. How significant is this?
Well, this is a kind of a reflection of things are intact. Command and control is not only on the military side, but also on the diplomatic side. It seems that there is a plan already, and this plan is mainly built on
Israel attacked Iran while there were hundreds of civilian airliners flying inside Iranian and Iraqi airspace, endangering the lives of thousands of innocents who could be caught in the crossfire.
What we're hearing also from Iran is that they were targeting in the beginning of this
explosions in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia.
Commanders. We don't know whether they are they've been killed or not, but there are senior military commanders in Iran who were targeted in this strike.
Okay. Mohammad Seloun, quite significant that the escalation is happening this fast and in multiple locations, Bahrain, the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar.
So Iran is doing exactly as it said, which is beautiful.
Some places in Jaffa Safar, south of Baghdad, have been targeted either by Israeli or US planes. So Iran is delivering on its promise. They said that this is going to be
Iran
a regional
is delivering.
war, so they're trying to draw in other countries in the region into this war. So they targeted Abu Dhabi, probably they targeted Bahrain and Qatar, and they might also target other countries like Saudi Arabia, and they already did in Iraq. So they want to raise the cost for these countries with the hope probably that these countries will pressure the US or would pressure the US administration to stop this war.
Qatar has reportedly intercepted now 2 Iranian missiles over this country. The fact that the Iranians are targeting countries where there are US bases, of course, but also countries that have good relations with Iran. What does that tell you about the regime's, objective and its intent?
Well, the foreign minister, in multiple times, the Iranian foreign minister said that we're targeting these countries. They are friendly countries, and we have nothing against them. We're targeting the US bases and foreign bases in these countries. But I think that line is being blurred at the moment because they're targeting, places inside the city, and they're targeting people.
National emergency alert here in Qatar.
Qatar is being hit. Qatar is being hit.
Clearly incoming danger here in Qatar.
Iran ain't no fucking Venezuela.
Already been intercepted here in Doha by the missile defense system. It would seem a third one is incoming. The Iranians clearly are prepared this time around. They weren't.
Yes, sir.
Given the response we see.
Indeed, yeah. So they are trying to widen this into the region. But equally, we have to remember that the US has already, the US and its allies have already predicted this, and probably they have plans to stop this. They are prepared also to pay the cost for this. I think what President Trump said that some of our men and women might die in this war, but that's the price we paid. What we're looking at here is the unfolding of this conflict where the Iranians. This is the last showdown, if you like, between these two big powers.
The last showdown, you say, but how is it going to end? What brings it to an end?
But it seems that the US and Israel and their allies as well, they are very much keen on regime change. And what they're hoping is that a shock just like what happened in 2003 would shake the regime and would probably help the Iranians, topple the regime. So that is what they said out loud.
Okay, just to update our viewers on what's been happening in this region after the initial US and Israeli attack on Iran. The Iranians have now started responding. There have been attacks, strikes on Bahrain, the UAE, and Qatar, all countries which have closed their airspace, I should say. Iran has struck Bahrain's capital, Manama, while Qatar has announced that it shot down at least 2 missiles that were headed towards the US military base at around date here in Qatar. President Donald Trump issued a statement earlier, as we've been saying that the U.S. started major combat operations in Iran and warned that there will likely be American casualties. And what we've seen in the last hour is American bases in this region being targeted. President Trump also calling on Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard to lay down its arms or face certain death. Let's listen to what the U.S. President said earlier.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer.
Let's bring in our chief U.S. correspondent, Alan Fisher, in Washington now. Alan, President Trump making there the case for war, but how big of a political risk is he taking by launching this operation on Iran?
Let's see what's going on Twitter. Twitter has the more accurate news than these guys.
To make sure that he continued to win. He talked about how regime change was an outdated idea, that the US was involved in stupid foreign wars, that the neocons were sending children to fight wars that they themselves wouldn't fight. And of course, famously, he said that if you voted for Kamala Harris, you were voting for World War III. And as we're hearing news of attacks in Bahrain,
breaking report. Initial reports that Iranian missiles are targeting the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Persian Gulf. Iran is just retaliating against bases. They're going after the fleet. You hear that? Iran is striking back. Initial reports that Iranian missiles are targeting the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Persian Gulf. Iran isn't just retaliating against bases, they're going after the fleet. That came out a half an hour ago. Why? I'm fucking late.
Nuclear weapon. And of course, we saw Operation Midnight Hammer in June, and the White House still has this on the website, that Iran's nuclear program was obliterated at that point. Now, we know that to take action against Iran, he has consistently pushed the idea that Iran was just something that he's been talking about for 20 years. Now we find ourselves in what is an open-ended operation. Donald Trump has warned Americans that that will be a problem for him with his
oh my god.
Will be a problem for him. Many people in the United States.
Dude, fuck me. A fucking missile actually got through. Oh, there's more. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
This is effectively a declaration of war.
wrong.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Alan, thank you very much for now. Alan Fisher in Washington there. If you're just joining us on Al Jazeera, it's just gone past 3 GMT. And the United States and Israel are attacking Iran just days after representatives from Iran and Washington held conference representatives. Retaliatory wave missiles and drones at Israel. Explosions have been heard in Israel as the military intercepts missiles. Iran has also targeted U.S. assets in countries including Bahrain, the UAE,
after Gaza, after the Iraq.
Kuwait. Bahrain has confirmed that they've been attacked on its territory.
Let me read this. After Gaza, after the attacks on Iran, no one can say they were not warned. The empire is telling the world in real time what future it offers. Sanctions for disobedience, bombs for defiance, smiles for those who kneel. Russia and China can either act as if it's still in a negotiation, or they can finally admit what the rest of us already know. The age of asking the U.S. to behave is over. The age of building a world where it no longer gets to decide who lives, who dies, and who conquers has already begun. War has begun. May God destroy Israel once and for all. That's basically the general consensus right now. All I can say is Hitler knew something we didn't know. That's a tweet from the great Demani. That's not my words. I'm just reading a tweet.
Sometimes I learn breaking news from my own chatter. That is beautiful. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for the subs, Helion. I didn't see that. I didn't get that, but thank you. I appreciate you.
Fifth Fleet has been targeted by a missile attack and has urged people to take cover in a safe area. Loud explosions have also been heard in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, which has announced the closure of its airspace, both temporarily and partially. These are some of the latest images that appear to show interceptions.
So Iran is actually above the schedule that I predicted.
And here in Qatar,
I predicted that we would start seeing attacks in 3-5 hours.
Qatar, of course, is home to the largest
We're 3 hours into the stream, and the attacks from Iran are just starting to happen. Wow. We actually caught this one alive.
Bring us up to speed with what's been happening here in Qatar and the rest of the region.
This is a historic moment right here we caught.
Well, just since we last spoke in the last 45 minutes or so, 30 or 45 minutes, we've heard at least 6 or 7 loud explosions. The last one that just happened felt a lot louder and felt like that was some kind of ground impact, but we can't confirm at this stage. If you look up at the sky, we can see puffs of smoke that looks like the Patriot systems intercepting. We are seeing multiple plumes of smoke, multiple explosions again. That's at least 4 or 5 explosions. Just to give you a sense of how incongruous this kind of device is to a place like that. Vendors trying to get them to take their crews onto the water. What's happening now is so incongruous to the regular peacetime here, even with those explosions and attacks that we saw last year by Iran and Israel and Qatar. It is still something quite alien to people here. But these
Israelis are happy and celebrating bomb shelters.
And there's been at least a dozen in the last hour.
Israelis are happy and celebrating bomb shelters and underground garages. Truly a demonic people. You guys seeing this shit?
Within the perimeter of the American base in Bahrain.
Truly a demonic society.
Right. It's not as significant as people think. So it probably would have been evacuated, and it looks as though the missile landed in warehouses, which presumably would be there, and one would imagine that the headquarters had been mostly evacuated because this is a long-standing target. But there is a possibility for loss of life, and that's something that I think will be a lot of evidence.
Right. We've also heard
so the United States get involved in Israel's war against Iran. Yes, 10%. No, 89.7%. A total of 489,266 votes.
It remains to be seen. I mean, the issue is you've got American forces evacuating Syria. A lot of that will be going through Iran.
Pakistan, Afghanistan war team is very suspectly timed.
would have relocated to bases in
Not relocated, but exfiltrated through, or some of their equipment. And, well, you don't know. I mean, it could, the problem is sometimes you could have a natural gas explosion in the middle of conflict.
If Iran really did have nukes, none of this would be happening.
First reports in war are always wrong.
Operation Epstein Fury.